is a report of a client of mine. We met twice. We had 2 sessions, 4 days apart. And the way she described the Mandela effect is, picture, if you will, the Earth being whole. And it's a little messed up. I probably shouldn't be showing this right now. Anyway, let's go back here for a minute. So picture, if you will, the Earth is a hole and it's broken. There's something wrong with it, and it needs to be fixed. And basically, folks couldn't, the good guys, benevolent beings of the universe, couldn't figure out how to fix it. So there was a general consensus one day that in order to fix it, it had to be broken. So the good guys, the decision was made to break the Earth, but on a higher dimensional level. So this is being done by the good guys for a good purpose, a good intent, to break it apart on a higher dimensional level and split it apart. And then if you picture, if you will, a slinky, but picture this completely going around again. And so now you have a slinky going around. Instead of these little spirals, picture, kind of like cut it, and each time you cut it, it creates a circle. So now you have a bunch of circles. So that's the visualization you have. And each circle is an Earth. Or some people like to say a timeline, or some people like to say a possibility, or some people like to say infinity. There's lots of words for it, but it's kind of hard to describe in the 3-dimensional reality that we live in, because we are talking about like the 10th dimension and above. We're talking about very advanced, higher dimensional matter. It's the
subject matter. That's what it is. So now that it's all fanned apart, it was done, the reason it was split and broken apart, if you will, was to let it be fixed and to be healed, to let the things that were broken to be released, and so they can be released, and they are released, and they let go, and they're cleansed and they're healed. And there's this massive cleansing project going on by benevolent beings. So then we move on to so once the an Earth is healed, like let's say this Earth is healed, it's kind of like moved out of its docking station, and in the center of the circle is a spiral, if you will. And the spiral, we'll just call that timeline 0, the original Earth, the way it's supposed to be, call it the River of Life. It has many, many names. So in the center is the River of Life 0, timeline 0, etc., whatever you want to call it. And so the Earth gets moved, and then it gets cleansed, and it gets moved in, and then it ascends. And so all these Earths are being cleansed and being healed. So a close-up look at that would look like this. As the Earth, so let's just say this is an Earth, this little circle here. So here's your Earth. And by the way, I didn't draw this. So my client drew this. And she gave me permission to share with you folks. So this is would be representative of the Earth. And bear in mind, we're talking about the 10th dimension. We're talking about very advanced spiritual matters. We're not talking about normal stuff that you see around you every day. So you have to expand your mind a little bit, and break down that little box and realize there's no box, and we're out in this expanse of the universe here. So as Earth moves in, this is what I talked about, this little spiral that's in the middle. So your slinky is going all around the whole thing, and then the Earth gets moved in, and then these little cords get attached to the Earth, and it's the final cleansing process, and it gets cleansed, and everything gets restored, and then it goes back on the timeline 0, and then it gets restored. This represents I guess, the singularity of the universe. I don't know, it's hard to explain. More on that later. I was talking to Aurora, if you know her, the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. She understands this type of stuff very well. So I'm going to be doing a live stream with her. Look forward to that. We're going to do a couple things together because what my client here saw ties in directly to the work and the things she does. But basically, so now that was all the kumbaya stuff where everything's beautiful and everything gets restored and everything gets healed and we fix everything. It's just it's a process. So now the bad news. Okay, what's the bad news? Well, the bad guys are using technology. Oops, I think I did that by mistake. The bad guys are using technology. They're aware that the Earths are being healed. They're completely aware of it. So the boo boo, the bad guys of the universe. Yeah, those whatever you want to say. Those guys, they're totally aware of everything that's going on. Everything I'm showing you, they already know. Okay, they already know all this. And how do I know? Because my client knows, and they're attacking these cords with technology and saw the whole thing, and I concur and I believe it to be true. So they're using technology to cut these healing cords. So as cords are attached to the Earth to heal it, they're using technology they're using surface-based technology to most likely. I don't know. We didn't get into how the technology is being done, but basically, my client said that these cords are being broken. They're cutting them. If I may inject, take a little timeout segue here from it, I would like to inject my opinion at this time. So this is my opinion only. This is my opinion. I'm kind of wondering, as they're cutting the stuff, is that what's causing the Mandela effect? As they're cutting these cords, is that what the Mandela effect is? Every time they're using technology to stop the healing process. So when the bad guys use technology to stop the good guys from healing them, and they're cutting these cords, is that causing Mandela effects? And is that what the Mandela effect is? So that's something, a question I'm going to have to see if my future clients want to ask. That would be interesting to know. Anyway, going back to the session. So, all right. So, but what my client also said was, the good news is, so back to good news. Yay, good news. So back to good news. The bad guys don't know what they're doing. They don't understand what they're doing. They don't. And what they're doing doesn't work. As soon as they cut one of these cords, we rebuild it. They cut a cord, we rebuild it. They cut a cord, we rebuild it. So they're just going cut, we rebuild. And what they're doing is empty and meaningless, but it is jacking things up. It is causing a little bit of disturbances. But it in the end, it doesn't matter because they don't know what they're doing, and what they're doing isn't going to work, is what my client said. And also, it's going to succeed. With the projects, this is going to succeed. She also said that there is a fifth dimensional Earth. It's there. It's waiting for us. It's all prepared, and it's there. And that pretty much concludes my brief summary of Mandela Effect client I had who described it. So that was nice and short and sweet, and I think that's good enough. As we say, as the sun sets and the sun rises, come to that quiet, peaceful place. Let all the cares go away and create this bubble of pure source God creator energy around you. Get back connected to Him and pull in His energy. Let it flow through the top of your head, through your body, out through your toes to the dirt beneath your feet. Let it flow right through you like a river fall. Sunshine flowing through you, just beautiful energy all through you, and then begin to shine and become a pillar of light and let that energy emanate. Let it emanate outwards, and all around you and all over the place, all throughout this earth and this place and everywhere in the universe. And just feel nothing but peace and love and harmony. And just know that everything's gonna be okay, folks. It really is. God bless. Peace. And be well.
TheVerge.com. YouTube creators frustrated over bot that keeps demonetizing videos. Lizzie Plaget. 6 to 7 minutes. One night at the beginning of November, tech reviewer Ben Schmant published a YouTube video comparing the cameras on the iPhone X, the Samsung S8, and the LG V30. YouTube initially classified the video as suitable for all advertisers, indicated by a green $sign icon. When Schmant woke up the next morning, the classification icon had been changed to a yellow $sign, which means the video can only make money from a limited number of advertisers. YouTube said this shouldn't happen, but obviously it keeps happening, Schmant said of the switch from green to yellow. Overnight I gained a good 10,000 or 20,000 views, so that's lost money on both my part and their part. Schmant is just one of several YouTubers who has had issues with YouTube demonetizing or limiting ads on their iPhone X videos in recent weeks. Dylan Hong, who runs a small tech channel, says his video about iPhone X accessories was immediately flagged as a yellow icon, limited ad video. He wasn't really concerned about lost revenue, but he was surprised. I make super advertiser-friendly, family-friendly videos, Hong told The Verge. It was just an algorithm fail that a bunch of iPhone X videos from really reputable reviewers and much smaller channels just got auto-flagged from the beginning. As reported by TechnoBuffalo, YouTube's algorithm began marking some new iPhone X videos as unsuitable for advertisers at the end of last month. Although more imaginative fans theorized that was Google's way of boycotting Apple, it seems more likely that it was just the latest in a string of issues with ad revenue and algorithms on YouTube. Schmant and Hong both said that after they appealed the classifications of their iPhone X videos, YouTube restored monetization within a few hours. Casey Neistat, who also had one of his iPhone X videos flagged immediately, tweeted that YouTube fixed the error about an hour later. The bug received a lot of attention in the YouTube community because it affected high-profile users like Neistat, MKBHD, and Justine Isaric, but YouTube says the issue was not widespread. We looked into reports that iPhone X videos weren't running ads, and there is no data to support there is any kind of trend, a YouTube spokesperson told The Verge. In fact, the vast majority iPhone X videos are monetizing just fine across the platform. We encourage creators to appeal if they feel their video has been wrong demonetized, and every appeal helps our advertising systems get smarter over time. YouTube also says total creator revenue is up significantly year over year. Even though YouTube acted quickly to fix the issue, YouTubers are still frustrated by the company's ongoing problems with demonetization and transparency. The main concern from creators seems to be that they don't understand why particular videos get demonetized, especially when it's something as seemingly uncontroversial as a phone unboxing. And because YouTube's algorithm makes decisions immediately and at scale, it can be difficult to figure out what causes a certain video to get flagged. Before I posted the iPhone X video, I knew people were saying the algorithm was flagging that term exactly, Schmant said. And I don't know if it was because of X, like X-rated or XXX, but you would think input some code on the back end to ignore iPhone X. YouTube suggests that creators upload videos as unlisted or private to check the monetization status before a video goes public, but many creators don't want to wait when it comes to timely news and reviews. About a month ago, Neistat posted a video to his channel titled Demonetized Demonetized Demonetized, after YouTube demonetized one of his travel vlogs. In the video, Neistat argues that the advertising controversy has become a catalyst for the YouTube community to speak out about what upsets them about YouTube. He argued that the company was considering its community second to advertisers, when in fact, the community should be treated as the most important part of YouTube. Soon after, YouTube announced it was releasing a performance improvement update that it claimed would result in 30% fewer videos being flagged for demonetization. But the iPhone X demonetization error happened after this performance update, and there will likely be similar bugs in the future. Creators just want YouTube to handle communication differently. I trust that YouTube is working hard on their end, Hong said. What YouTube is trying to do from a machine learning standpoint is really difficult, but their community engagement side is terrible. YouTube insists that every appealed video will receive a human review, but some creators think they shouldn't have to appeal regularly at the whims of YouTube's algorithm. Both Hong and Schmank echo Neistat's recent suggestion that bigger YouTube channels should receive an automatic human review, rather than lose views while appealing a video. YouTube currently allows creators with more than 10,000 subscribers to request a manual review, and wait to publish a video until the video is cleared for monetization. Yesterday, YouTube's head of gaming Ryan Wyatt told Polygon that the company is considering different ways to help creators monetize their videos without ads. For now though, ads are still a huge revenue source for many YouTubers, and the iPhone X is a good bet if you're trying to rack up views. But if you have to spend a day or even just a few hours trying to convince YouTube your video is suitable for ads, there's always a chance your viewers have already moved on. The bigger creators are bringing in millions of dollars, and for YouTube to not be transparent on updates, things that they're working on, makes everything look so shifty, Schmank said. And it makes everything look worse than it really is.
My camera's not turning on. What's that? I did slide it and let go. Not turning on. Here. Okay. We'll let an expert see if he can turn it on. Our networks in here are always unpredictable, so we'll have no idea what we're going to find. They are slow today. You know, you could help me out if you're on Wi-Fi, if you could just get off. I'd appreciate it. We're having a little problem here. We figured out why my demo crashed. Because there are 570 Wi-Fi base stations operating in this room. Okay? We can't deal with that. So we have two choices. Either I've got some more demos that are really great that I'd like to show you. So we either turn off all the stuff and see the demos, or we give up and I don't show you the demos. Would you like to see the demos or not? Okay. So here's the deal. Let's turn up the lights in the hall. Several hundred of these are these MiFi things too, by the way. So all you bloggers need to turn off your base stations, turn off your Wi-Fi. Every notebook, I'd like them to put them down on the floor. And all of you look around, I'd like you to police each other. If you want to see the demos, shut all your laptops, turn off all these MiFi base stations, and put them on the floor, please. Come on, look around you. I mean, I'm not, you know, I think bloggers have a right to blog, but if we want to see the demos, we're not going to be able to do it unless we turn off all these MiFi base stations and laptops, set them on the floor. I've got time. Now, I really want your Wi-Fi devices off. Are they off? Please turn them off if you've turned them back on. We're making mistakes. We're fixing them as fast as we can. And what happens sometimes, though, is that some people lie. Some people used unpublished APIs and their apps get rejected. Some people submit an app that they say does one thing but really does something else. They try to hide it from us. They get very clever about that. They try to hide it from us, and we find it, and we reject it, and they run to the press, and they tell the press the story about oppression, and it gets written up, and they get their 15 minutes of fame because they hope it will convince us to change our minds, which it never does, but they keep trying to do that. And it's unfortunate, but we take it in the chin. That's part of what we do, and we don't run to the press and go, this guy's a son of a bitch liar. And we went through the roof about this. So we said, no, we're not going to allow this. This is violating our privacy policies, and it's pissing us off that they're publishing data about our new products. And you guys have to stop making me blind, or I'm going to fall off the stage here like Bob Dole. Thank you. Guys, can I ask you to stop using the flashes for a little while? That'd be great. I can hardly see anymore. Thanks. You know, I can't see when you do that. Thanks. So maybe later, could we do some more? That'd really help me. Thanks, Tim. You know, I could hear a lot of phones beeping. So could we just take a minute, maybe everybody could flip the silencer on their phones? Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me here. It is a pleasure to be in a place where spring has actually arrived. I left Boston last week, and it was just barely getting there, so I've enjoyed my sort of whirlwind tour of California. Let me begin with a couple of practical pointers for those of you with children in the schools. Let me first ask how many have children or grandchildren in the public schools in the area. Just about all of you. That's great, because you are the people on the front lines who need to be able to see what's going on if you haven't already had a chance and been shocked by what you've seen. First practical pointer, which I now am telling people everywhere, is that parents can opt out if they choose to. They don't need to ask anybody's permission. This is something that all parents have the right to do. Many states are trying to figure out how to pass laws that give parents the right. Well, this is the wrong approach. They already have that right. Any parent, anywhere, unless there's some peculiar statute in state law, has the right to pull out children for any purpose. In the community I've lived in, parents have been taking out kids for 40 years when they wanted to go on a vacation. They just wrote in a little note and told the school that was what they were doing. They don't need to ask permission for that. The other point I've started to make, and Brad and I are going to have to talk probably more about it in detail, is the larger picture for locally elected school boards, because in most cases in our states, all 50, including California, you have locally elected school boards, and a basic political principle in this country since its founding and before is that Those are the people, those who are elected by the voters have the legal authority over what happens in your schools. It hasn't been taken away. There are moves to regionalize control of public education, and those need to be defeated. But those people who are legally elected in an election to make decisions about policy for your local schools are in control of curriculum, standards, and instruction. The only thing they may have to do is give a state-developed test to the students in the school system, but this doesn't mean that the parents can't take their kids out of that school system. There are some rights that still are there for locally elected school boards. That's where the real battle has to be. And that leads me to what I want to give you as the kind of big picture for who was deliberately excluded from the Common Core project. And I was a part of it in some ways from the very beginning. And you'll hear some more of the gory details, particularly my experience on a bizarre committee called the Validation Committee. But the four major groups who were excluded were, first of all, parents. Parents were the last to find out about what was going to happen with their own children, and they are busily being disengaged, if possible, or shunted off, or in some way alienated from whatever's happening in the schools. In many cases, they are not being told the truth or any information at all. The second group were teachers themselves. Teachers will tell you that they had no idea what was going to happen after their State Board of Education adopted Common Core standards. Third group, very important, are state legislators. I've testified in about 25 states in the past year and a half. And the first question is usually, what is Common Core? They're being hit with bills, usually for the high technology, for the testing, or for professional development for teachers, the two major expenses that are coming down the pike right now. But they were not involved. Their state boards of education didn't bother to ask them for a cost-benefit analysis of what these standards might entail that they were developed, that the state board was planning to adopt, nor did the state boards ever ask for the teaching faculty in higher education institutions in a state, which the state legislature pays for when it subsidizes and appropriates money for its public colleges, universities, community colleges, whatever. But they weren't involved in giving any advice to the state boards on what these so-called college readiness standards were all about. So state legislatures were deliberately avoided because what was not desired was public discussion and deliberation about all the questions I had when I was on the state board in Massachusetts during the years Common Core was being developed and then approved. Finally, local school boards or local school committee people were nowhere to be seen on any of the Common Core committees. They were kept in the dark, and as I was told in Massachusetts, after the state board adopted Common Core's standards, they were then officially notified after the fact. They had no idea that there were going to be new standards coming down the pike for them. So the four major groups who should have the most to say about children's education were deliberately avoided by memos of understanding between a governor and either a chair of a board of ed or a commissioner of ed, sometimes both, all three, and then an approval by a board of education at the state level, which has statutory authority to adopt standards that are voluntary for local districts to adopt. And that was true in Massachusetts. We always knew that. Even when I was in the Department of Ed developing K-12 standards, we always knew they were voluntary because of local control. The tests that we would develop based on those standards, which was why we needed to develop them, had to be based legally on these state-developed standards. But those had to be given, because that was part of the statutory authority of State Board of Ed and its Department of Ed, which in most states is part of the administrative branch of government. Now, you have a different situation where you have separately elected commissioners, as you do here in California and a few other states, which gives them independence from a governor or from other bodies. But in most states, that's not the case. Let me give you some basic facts about the Common Core development of standards, because it was a stealth operation from the very beginning. And I want you to know why I was so outraged about it to begin with. I was on only the validation committee, which was the final committee that was supposed to approve and endorse these standards. But why I was so concerned about the secrecy, the non-transparency of what this project was all about was a reflection of my own background. I've been a very active citizen in my home community. I was, first of all, president of the League of Women Voters, which was nonpartisan. I understand democratic procedures completely. I was an elected town meeting member for 10 years, and I was a library trustee, elected also for 14 years. I know what sunshine laws are about. I know what can be FOIA'd, Freedom of Information Act, what can't be FOIA'd. I understand what agendas and minutes of meetings and why you have to have public meetings and how feedback that you get should be available to everybody. I was on a committee where none of that's available for anyone. So I just found the whole lack of transparency extremely puzzling. But let's start at the beginning, because that was how the project began, and it tells us why we can't get any information about any of the origins of this project to centralize decision-making about public education in this country in Washington. And that's how I would describe a major part of the goal, ideologically, in a sense. Who developed these standards? We all know that private organizations in DC did. They were not state-led. This is one of the many lies I've tried to counter, and it's very difficult for me to keep telling people that these are lies, because then I begin to sound like some wild freak. But they were not state-led. They were developed by the National Governors Association, the Council for Chief State School Officers, and Achieve Inc., which is a spin-off of the National Governors Association, all private groups in DC. And they were all funded for this particular purpose by another private organization, the Gates Foundation. All private groups doing whatever they wanted in private, unaccountable to the public. They never had to tell the public why they chose the people they did to put on these committees, what the charges were to them, can't get a hold of contracts, don't know how much they were paid, nothing. No information is available because they're private. Who selected the members, for example, of the standards development work groups, the people who actually decided what the end goal at the high school level would be, college readiness? And pay attention to the name. We've never had college readiness standards in this country before. No other country has them either. They're not plain old ordinary standards. They're college readiness standards, which is a whole different can of worms, so to speak. But so far as we know, Achieve Inc. and the Gates Foundation selected the personnel to write these high school level college readiness standards. It's the best guess we can come up with, because no one's going to admit who actually chose the people on that initial committee. And who were they? That was when I first became rather concerned about what this whole project was going to end up with. They were mainly people connected to our testing industries. ACT, CB, College Board, Achieve. They were mainly people involved in test development or curriculum development. They were not content experts, which is what you would have expected rationally in English language arts or mathematics. Who was not on these groups, because I'm trained as an academic researcher to see what's missing as well as what's there and to analyze both. The people who were not there were high school English and math teachers, the two groups that you would expect to be on a college readiness committee, along with teaching faculty at the college level who teach in those areas. English professors weren't there, scientists, engineers, parents, state legislators, and so forth. None of them were on the committee, the very people you would expect to be on a college readiness committee. Can't get any information about why they were chosen, as I say. That's in the dark. And who are the people chosen to write these standards? And you have to look at them to appreciate the fact, if you know a little bit about math, look at the high school level. There are serious problems there, and I'll go into detail in a few minutes. English is so poorly written that my first reaction is these are people who could never have written English language arts standards because they've never done it before. I have been the editor of a research journal in the English language arts and have done a great deal of writing, and I prize good English writing, and above all, a document that claims to be English language arts standards should be written in good English. It goes without saying that you want not gobbledygook or gibberish. You want something that is clear, interpretable, without a lot of fuzziness, and so on. The two lead writers in English, we know their names, David Coleman, Susan Pimentel, had no qualifications for what they were doing. They had never taught reading or English in K-12 or at the college level. They had not majored in English. They didn't have doctorates in English. They had never published anything on education. They were totally unknown to the field at the time they were appointed. Now, in math, two of the lead writers had PhDs in mathematics, so they knew the subject area, but they too had no experience in writing K-12 mathematics standards. The third person on the committee, whose name is Phil Darrow, actually had majored in English. Now, you look at that and you say to yourself, there's some serious issues with credibility. But no reporters, no media ever picked up who were these people, why were they chosen? The media have been out to lunch. There are some serious problems with the training of reporters and other journalists in this country, but it certainly shows up with their failure to say, who were these people chosen, why were they chosen, and what were their
credentials for doing what they did. What was the ostensible purpose of this validation committee that I was on? Now, what is the committee's function? Validation committee sounds rather impressive. It was to ensure that the standards were internationally benchmarked, research-based, and rigorous, among other things. But those were the major focuses for this committee.
A fascinating caller that called into the David Pakman show, and this conversation was so ridiculous, so we're going to go over it right now.
Okay, let's go back to the phone. 617-830-4750 is the number. We'll go to our next caller from the 503 area code. Caller, what's on your mind?
Hi, David. My name is Mitchell Forbes. I'm from, crap, I just gave my last name. I'm from Portland, and I have a question about the no Russian trolls that come on your show and they leave voicemails.
Okay. The people that call in and still say, despite indictments, that there's no Russia story.
Yes.
Please tell us we're not on speakerphone, right? Right, Mitchell?
Sorry, let me take you off.
He's going to fix his phone, and for whatever reason, David did not edit this out. But David seems to believe that somehow the indictments that have nothing to do with Trump and Russian collusion are still a story when it comes to Trump, Russia. That's fucking retarded.
When Secular Talk, Humanist Report, The Progressive Voice, and the Jimmy Dore Show still say that there doesn't seem to be any evidence between Russia and Trump.
I don't know that they say that. I mean, listen, I don't really watch any shows, and I don't even know some of the people you're talking about. But is there a different way you can ask the question that I might be able to better answer it? Because I don't know all those shows, and I don't really watch any shows.
It's just calling them trolls, and then when there's a lot of prominent progressive voices out there that are also independent media, just like yours, it's a little strange. The only other independent media source is very progressive that I found that agrees that there could be a collusion is the Rational National, and even then,
I don't know who that is either. Listen, I mean, it's
David Pakman doesn't know who anyone is. He doesn't know who anyone is. Isn't that so convenient? But he knew he knew who H.A. Goodman was when he made his hit video on him. Oh.
So it's so difficult to talk about what other people think whose shows I've not seen for a while, and some of whom I'm not even familiar with. I mean, do you think that there was Trump-Russia collusion? Do you think it's possible that there was? Do you think it's been proven that there is no collusion?
I don't think it's been proven in either way.
Right.
But from the evidence that's been mounted so far, I don't believe it is the case that there has been collusion.
Okay. So like when Donald Trump Jr. met with the Russian lawyer, and she promised dirt on Hillary, and Trump Jr. said, we might be able to
Captain's log. Stardate 47249, Commander Chode speaking. We're nearing the end of our 5-hour mission to deliver prophylactics to the oversexed...
excuse me.
What?
Who are you talking to?
Ship's recorder.
Oh. It's broken.
What the hell have you been fixing these past 2 days?
The Transdigital Freon Converter.
And what's that for?
It makes ice cubes.
You mean to tell me that with all the crap that's broken off...
This program is intended for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised.
This is the Drawn Together House, where 8 different cartoon characters from all over the animated universe will live together in front of 1 million cameras. Clara, a pure and innocent fairy tale princess.
Father is finally allowing me to venture beyond the castle walls, as long
No, I'm saying, no, not de-escalate. No, what are y'all trying to do?
In the description, they help support us.
You think they're trying to be violent? No, what are y'all trying to do? Y'all trying to escalate? You're trying to escalate it because I'm trying to...
No, I'm trying to de-escalate it.
No, you
I'm
escalate.
trying to de-escalate. And we can with all. Yeah, you can video all you want.
No, I'm saying.
No,
No,
not de-escalate this.
all of these people
That's because we've been here for 30 minutes talking to you.
driving.
And ain't nothing working.
Suspicion for driving without a license.
That's why.
Who are they under the suspicion of, sir? Like, what was the name of the person that is supposed to be, the license is supposed to be suspended? They just said the car, because this is my mother's car, so you're trying to say that my mother,
I can't even hear y'all with this window on.
well, I can speak louder if you want to hear me. All right, you said that we was pulled over later on about suspected driving without a license, suspected of driving without a license because he ran the tag. Well, this is my mother's car, so are they looking for a female or a male?
Well, we can deal with that in a minute. Right now, I need him to come out so we can end this and be done.
That's all he asked was, what were you looking for? What driver? Was it my mom? Because this is my mother's car. So
we'll
I'm like,
deal with that in a minute.
Oh, okay.
Right now, he don't have a driver's license. So
how do you know? Did you ask him? You said that you was looking for the driver who's registered to this vehicle. That's my mother. Correct? I'm talking to you right now. You gotta break the. Oh, man.
So y'all own this here now, cause y'all.
Why are they breaking the window out? So they are breaking out the window of the car. And he got a gun. Hey, Dad, put your hands up. Dad, put your hands up. Because he went through his gun. He got his gun. I'm getting hit with glass.
Yeah. Getting hit with glass and everything.
Why do you got your hand on your gun, sir? Get out of that.
Can I
Yeah.
Now you messed with mama's car.
Now, what do I got to do with the situation? Why is he on this door? Why are you after me?
Get out of the vehicle.
Okay. Yes, sir.
You want them in separate cars?
Problem.
I don't think it's improvement in either way.
Right.
But from the evidence that's been mounted so far, I don't believe it is the case that there has been collusion.
Okay. So like when Donald Trump Jr. met with the Russian lawyer and she promised dirt on Hillary and Trump Jr. said, we might be able to look at, I want more information about this.
What is the committee's function? Validation committee sounds rather impressive. It was to ensure failure to say, who are these people chosen, why were they chosen, and what were their credentials for?
Okay, it says I have a slow connection.
Arizona Senator Jeff Flake has decided to step up his attacks against sitting President Donald Trump, and this week said that Donald Trump is not normal.
Oh my God, a piece of shit, self-promoting politician thinks Donald Trump isn't normal. Amazing.
How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? November 14th, took a couple days off, but welcome back. I'm going to do my best to at least cover all the important things that I've seen over the last few days. By no means everything, since I've been gone, but these are the most important ones that I want to share with you guys. And first, we're going to discuss the supposed NSA security breach. So I saw this one in the New York Times.
Stolen, and the crazy thing is that the neighbor has been shooting a lot of bullets lately, hundreds of rounds, large magazines, and you know, we've made it aware that this guy has been crazy and he's been threatening us and everything like that. We just feel like maybe he's a little crazy.
And how's your roommate right now?
Unfortunately, he's not good. He's dead. Didn't make it, and you know, for his family and everything like that, you know, I feel bad.
Hi everybody, thank you for joining me. Here's an update about that shooting that happened at Rancho Tehama School. Once again, I have to blame the FBI for allowing this to happen. They're allowing these shootings to happen, in my opinion, so the government can have their agenda of taking away our gun rights. The man, a 50-year-old man, has past felonies, means he was never supposed to own any firearms. He was seen, and probably reported, to be shooting hundreds of rounds, practice shooting, prior to this incident. 5 people have been killed, including the shooter, in a small community about 15 miles southwest of Red Bluff. Under Sheriff Phil Johnson with the Tehama County Sheriff Office said there were 7 shooting scenes, and there may be more victims. 7 different areas of shootings. 2 children were also shot and wounded this morning, he confirmed. Now there's reports that 2 children are dead. That has not been confirmed. The school was evacuated to the rec hall, and a woman and a child in a gray truck were shot and taken to hospital. The shooting started shortly after 8 a.m., according to the Tehama.
45 minutes of terror. A gunman goes on a deadly shooting rampage in Tehama County, pulling the trigger at random. School children among his targets. 5 people are dead, including the attacker gunned down by police.
Well, this shooting spree covers at least 7 different locations.
Okay, so here's the video that a lot of people have been waiting on me to report about. And I don't know how long this video is going to be because it's, I might read a couple of articles because everything is still being reported and still being updated as the time goes on. But I have to give a huge shout out to many of my subscribers. Like, y'all over flooded my email. Probably about a good 5 or 6 of you sent me the same article. Well, not the same exact article, but various different articles talking about this story because y'all just knew right off the bat that this was a white person that did this. And of course, I had no doubt in my mind that it was indeed a white person who did it. One of the white identity extremists that they refused to give that label to. But I have to give a huge shout out to one of my subscribers by the name of Beatdown City because they were telling me about it. And I said to a couple of my
This is Dabu7. Some updated information for the events that unfolded in California today. And all this kicked off around 8 a.m. local time. As they say, this attack unfolded and then went into a school zone. Now they're saying it started in a neighborhood where a man was firing off shots. Now I seen a neighbor earlier talking about the person responsible being his neighbor, someone that was recently firing off rounds. And he kind of made it sound like they reported it to the police in a sense, or let it be known that they thought he was crazy or something. And I'm not sure if that sparked police coming there first and then something took place. A lot of the details here are still dicey. Now, this Twitter post here was
breaking news. Big government bust in Vegas, massacre with who gave shooter meds, and here's why the story vanished. It's been a month and a half since the nation's largest mass shooting in modern history happened, with more questions lingering than answers until today. It's been strange, in the least, that a crime of mass casualty has been swept under the rug and all but forgotten, as authorities and the mainstream media have abandoned the story altogether, seemingly hoping that the American people would move on. However, now it's become clear as to what the supposedly sloppy investigation has been hiding all along, and it's clear as to the reason why now that it's been revealed as who gave the shooter his medication and perhaps why. It's been known since the beginning Stephen Paddock was on diazepam, which is a drug used to treat anxiety, muscle spasms, and seizures. The known side effects of this controlled substance is likely to cause paranoid or suicidal ideation and impair memory, judgment, and coordination. Paddock was a known drinker who often over-imbibed, which has particular damning effects on someone like diazepam, someone taking diazepam. Quote, combining with other substances, particularly alcohol, can slow breathing and possibly lead to death, end quote, but can also dramatically increase the effects of the drug. So either Paddock was dishonest with his doctor about his alcohol use, abused the medication on purpose, or was prescribed this particular drug with an ulterior motive by the prescriber. Considering who gave it, seems to suggest the latter, as well as the reason why the government is so desperate to hide the details of this horrifying mass casualty case. SOTT reports. The physician who last June prescribed Las Vegas shooter Stephen Paddock diazepam, a drug used to make some more suggestible or hypnotizable and induce amnesia.
Hi, this is Pastor Daryl Myatt from Keller, Texas. Today is
according
Tuesday,
to Las
November
Vegas
14,
Review Journal,
2017.
and is Dr. Stephen
This
P.
channel is
Winkler
all about
of
world
Las
news,
Vegas,
Bible
Nevada.
prophecy,
Winkler is the
end-time
Chief
events,
Medical
and the
Officer of
return of
Nevada,
our Lord and Savior
1
Jesus Christ.
DMAT, Disaster Medical Assistant Team.
Hey, everybody.
DMATs operate under the direction of the Department of Homeland Security, and Winkler
United States,
is thus what is known as an intermittent federal employee who also serves as on a number of professional committees. Nevada 1 DMAT is also a division of Nevada's Clark County Emergency Management Agency, who just prior to October 1st, 2017, Las Vegas mass shooting hosted at least one multi-agency mock mass casualty terrorism response exercise in Las Vegas. CIA code named MK Ultra mind control programs experimented heavily with amnesia-inducing hypnosis facilitated by certain drugs like diazepam. Yes, they induce amnesia. It's hard to believe that the very doctor who prescribed the shooter with the exact drug his group talked about using is also staging a quote-unquote mass casualty event prior to the real thing happening. Had nothing to do with this. It raised a lot more questions as to who else was involved and exactly what they were trying to accomplish in the long run with this, but could answer why the story of this deadly incident seems to have disappeared. The question of government involvement has come up more than once, with one particular tie that Paddock had with government contractors that added a lot to the thickening plot last month. With this tie-in, things are getting even stranger. If you suspected a government involvement in the scrupulous planning that no average Joe is really capable of doing on his own, you are probably right. The mysterious Stephen Paddock is an average, faceless guy who blends into society despite being rather wealthy. Paddock had several investment opportunities and properties, and apparently at least one private plane, which ended up in unusual use after he reportedly sold it to an intelligence contractor who was part of Obama's administration. While that raises some eyebrows, what else was discovered about this alarming sale pretty much blows the investigation wide open as to why the FBI is protecting and even changing so many facts about this crucial incident that killed 59 Americans and wounded over 500 more. Quote, "A few internet sleuths have taken matters into their own hands after the obvious disinformation campaign by the mainstream media surrounding the Las Vegas shooting," the Daily Sheeple reported. "Before you board the skepticism train, the proof is in the information provided on via the FAA. Of course, this isn't something that CNN will be quick to expose, as it reveals the attack is worse than we thought and may not end with these 59 victims. Mike Toke is limited to a certain character count in the written portion of the tweet, so his message only says so much. However, he lets the evidence he lays out say far more than what the site limits him to writing. It's now becoming more clear than ever that the government is hiding the facts from us to protect themselves." Mike Toke's tweets, October 4th, 2017. Breaking. Users on POL have discovered flight records and a plane that belonged to the Las Vegas shooter. It is connected to an intelligence contractor whose owner previously worked for the Obama administration. The Daily Sheeple explains that what the evidence is in this tweet means that and is not looking good for the Obama administration. Not surprisingly, the former President Obama is nowhere to be seen since initially trying to come out as a hero, pushing for gun control, of course. Quote, "Looking closely, the first thing you will notice is that the shooter, Stephen Paddock, had a pilot license and owned 2 planes. This is well-established fact. The tail number of one of those planes is N5343M, a Cirrus SR-20. You can see that this was owned by Paddock by going to the website flightaware.com, but Paddock doesn't own this plane anymore. It was grounded 3 years ago, and it's now in the hands of none other than Volant LLC, which there is little information on. However, Volant Associates is none other than a Department of Defense contractor, meaning Paddock's plane has been in the hands of the U.S. government for the past 3 years and grounded since then, if Volant LLC is being used as a way to hide information. Considering what Volant Associate does, that wouldn't be so far-fetched, but the plane's information is all easily verified on flightaware.com. It's been in Roanoke, Virginia since April 25th, 2014. Volant described its mission on the website as providing, quote, "the industry's preeminent professionals to discriminating U.S. government and intelligence and defense industry customers," end quote. The registration of the plane is also listed as active, even though it has not been flown in 3 years. Strange enough yet, well, it gets even better. The FAA should have this same information, but they don't. Their website shows that a different aircraft, a Cessna 152, maintains that tail number, and it was last registered to a person in San Diego, California. The FAA, which is the Federal Aviation Administration, is a government agency, and it appears that it has scrubbed this plane's information. Now, why would they do that? Well, the plot still thickens. In the age of the internet, with every reputable business being represented by some kind of a website, it's strange that a contractor company successful enough to purchase an airplane is practically nowhere to be found online. The only plausible reason for this is something to hide, perhaps. Perhaps Volant LLC is a cover company for the defense contractor. If so, inquiring minds want to know what they're trying to hide and why.
What? Thank God I am free, free, free from this world of sin. I've been washed in the blood of Jesus.
Hey everybody, it's Steve Olson, WSO. This United States, this is a security camera, very high resolution security camera. I'm gonna play the whole thing in its entirety, sped up, time lapsed, but it's an hour's worth of footage that I condensed down to, I think about, time lapsed it down to about 15 minutes or so, 13 minutes or something like that. But check this out. I'm not saying, guys, what I think it is. I'm not sure what it is, okay? It doesn't seem to move, or at least it's not moving fast enough to discern it moving, okay? Although it is rotating, okay? So, comments below.
All I'm offering is the truth.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
We all need to learn as much as we can about everything that we can, because one thing I have learned in my life is that most of what we have ever been taught has been a lie, 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 has been a lie.
Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination. Do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice.
Greetings world. We are on DK. As we continue in our All in the Family series, we would like to remind you all that the facts stated here are for no other purpose than making note of key points of the bloodline's beliefs, their mindset and why they do what they do, how they think and act, hopefully exposing it in such a way you can understand and know your enemy and act accordingly. The only purpose for the mention of their beliefs at all is simply because they are intricately woven in the reasoning, actions and history. We disclose all information found out about these people here. Comfortable or not, truth is not always pretty or fun. There are many proofs, including names of people documented in sacred, archaeological, and historical texts. All correlating versions of names used between these works we include and mention as much as possible, not to confuse but to educate. Names are changed constantly by the families, and the past researchers who have looked into the different names have not been able to tie them together, as we do here. Thanks to the internet, and the amount of information we can see, we are able to translate names, words and make the connections that could not be seen before.
You're in one of the most wealthy countries on the planet. People all over the world want to go there often. That's the way it has been. And now you're thinking of leaving. Why would you want to leave?
Well, wealthy or not, there's an awful lot of poor people, and I mean it's very competitive. I got involved in business, and I was actually very successful. Moving in storage business, it's one of those kind of businesses that people really need, and it turned into quite a large business. But I found it, in a way, very unsatisfying, and the whole rat race of money and what you have to do to keep it and make it and keep people from stealing it from you, and I just couldn't deal with it anymore. It just wasn't really me.
So
now.
Well, tell me what's better. What have you decided is a better avenue?
Well, you see, I like to just read and think. And when I went to college in Ireland, I got a degree in philosophy. So, there's upsides and downsides to that. But, the downside would be impractical and a bit of a dreamer and a bit of a thinker. But that's what I really like to do. I like to really read and think, and just in a kind of a very unstructured way, I guess. I was never a success academically, because maybe it comes back to what we were saying about your thing, or maybe why I like your thing. I didn't like the structures of academics and the whole. I just couldn't really deal with it.
Okay, just explain where you think you'll leave to. You'll leave, I think you're on the West Coast in California. Where are you going to go to if you leave?
The West Coast of Ireland.
Oh, you're going to go from the West Coast of America to the West Coast of Ireland?
Yes, which would be the West Coast of Europe, I guess, if you would want to think of it that way.
That's right. Right. So what do you hope to experience there that you don't have where you are now?
Well, the thing is, I grew up there, and it's the farm I grew up on, and my brother is still there. And, it's a beautiful area, and in some ways it was a great place to grow up, but at the same time I was quite alienated. I was bullied in school, and I really wanted to get away from the place.
I guess it's changed a lot. I mean, I presume you've been back to visit and you're aware of that it's changed a lot, or?
It's changed a lot, and I would have to say in the big picture, not really for the better. I don't really feel it's for the better, especially the farming there. It just seems dreary and grim. And we used to grow stuff. We used to grow onions, all our own vegetables, potatoes. We produced milk and carrots and onions and everything. People don't grow anything anymore, and it seems to be hard to grow stuff there. I can't really explain that. But
well, wait a minute. Either it's a farm or it's not. On a farm, you grow food.
Well, no. My brother he has sheep now. He's a sheep farmer. He doesn't grow anything.
So I hope it's for the wool.
Not really. No, it's for the meat, basically. They do cut the wool, but that's not the main point of it.
I see. Tell me something. You're in the United States. Can you say you want to leave because of the direction the country has taken, because of developments or events within the United States?
Well, I would say yes, though I've gotten a little bit maybe blasé about that because I felt much stronger about that maybe around the time of the Iraq War. You know, the time of Bush. At his peak, I was very much against the country. But see, at that time, I was very involved in business, and I had this sort of real dilemma where I really didn't like the direction the country was going in, but I was very immersed in it at the same time. Whereas now I've pulled back from all that. I'm just getting Social Security. I've just got my first Social Security check, and I've been really for the last 5 years, as I said, just thinking and reading and riding my bike. So I'm kind of in a very calmer space mentally, and I'm a little bit wary of projecting my problems onto the country as a whole. I mean, you know, you meet people who want to go to Canada because Trump is elected, and you know, I can't really get into that way of thinking. And you know, as far as Trump goes, my attitude is he's pretty bad, but the alternative is just as bad, if not worse.
Yeah. Well,
so it's
bring us up to date of the state in Ireland. What's the political situation there?
Well, we just had our Prime Minister is gay, which is a shocking development, and he's also half Indian. It just reminds me of this out of control multiculturalism, multi-everythingism. You know, compared to the way we grew up,
you know,
it was a very coherent country.
You know, when a few minutes ago I said to you, you know, what's the direction of Ireland? It's changed, and you said, yeah, well, it's not as good as it used to be, but that's what people are saying everywhere, all over Europe, in every country, in every town, and we think it's just us. It's not. It's everybody is not happy the way things are going.
No, that's right, and I think it might, but see, it might even go to a deeper thing. You mentioned a few days ago about the environment. Well, we're all aware of the environment, but to me, there's something going on there where it's actually hard to grow food now. They grow them in these tunnels, as they call them, in greenhouses. The weather is, you see, the Irish weather was always would gradually get warmer, you know, as the spring and the summer came on. Now we have a very hot day, very cold day. This is very, very hard for plants. So there's something going on with the climate. I think that you add in all the radio frequencies and the cell towers and all that, I think that has an effect on plants also. And then you add in the chemtrails, which is real there. And I don't know, the country is way less life in it. My brother talks about it's like a dead country. I walk on the beaches now. There's no shells there. When we were kids, it was full of crabs and shellfish, and it was like a rich area of life.
No, it's very pertinent what you've brought up, and of course the classic example I always think of is people would drive in a motor car and the windshield would be full of insects, and those days have gone.
I believe so, yes.
But look,
yes.
Patrick, I don't want to take you too far down any road here because you weren't sure how we do, and maybe we'll tie it up now and consider it a success.
Okay, we could do that, or I wouldn't mind talking some more. But the thing is, if you want to use a bit of it, you don't have to use the whole thing. I understand it on your videos that the length is important. It's a problem if it goes on too long. You know.
Well,
but I mean,
I actually, what makes a good video is not cutting it. Of course, you cut the beginning and the end, but in between, when there's no cut, it's best. Yeah. And we have a good section there, 7-8 minutes, which is very good, I think.
Okay, so you want to leave it there then?
Yeah, for now. We can do more another time.
To our astonishment, we realized archaeologists, genealogists, and historians from different countries and studies, languages, backgrounds have never connected the dots. People stay in a narrow rut of their thinking and education, keeping them blind and indoctrinated, disabling them from looking further and seeing the big picture, which leads to full truth. The deception is enough to blind the masses. We have discussed much of this before in our previous videos. We have already exposed the blood, the DNA, and the importance of the female Khadr tribe's bloodline in these families. We will keep the repeating of information already put out in previous videos to a minimum. Once again, we suggest you begin with our movie Delete, and continue through the messages from there so you will have a full understanding of what we discuss. In this series we have exposed 5 of the papal bloodlines thus far. Perhaps when we have completed putting our document L the bloodlines into video, we will continue with the remaining 6 families of the papal elite. The elite families are very proud of the fact that they can trace their line back to Cain. When we saw this claim in a news article many years ago, we looked for this proof. The elite have been selfish and have not revealed this genealogy or history, killing most who have done so. We thought this highly ridiculous and decided to write it all out from beginning to end for you in our document, which
I am not that familiar with Matt Gaetz from Florida, but I thought he did a really good job with Chuck Cuomo. And Stop the Hammering asking, is Streamlabs working now? It should be. Yeah, I did some testing. It should be working. So it should show up on the screen. Here is Chuck Cuomo and Matt Gaetz.
But you also have to measure how the judge responds to it and what it means. You know, these are difficult questions that you guys will have to deal with, and you'll be judged at the polls. Now,
which was put out a couple of years ago. You may notice that in our previous videos in the All in the Family series, we have only discussed the genealogies back to several hundred years BC. We have stopped short because it is at this time the families were large and recognized as tribes. In this video we will discuss the time of the tribes and work from the beginning. We have in fact proven the elite are able to be traced through their genealogy back to Cain. In proving this, we have proven much more as well. So let us go to Cain, and start at what the elite have said is their beginning. In the beginning was murder. Cain is the first noted murderer. He was born around 4004 BC and was twin to his sister, Aklia. His brother, Abel, was murdered by him because of jealousy when they were teenagers, and Cain married and had children with Abel's twin sister, Lelua. She was beautiful and Cain's lust for her was strong. Cain and his descendants were exiled and the bloodline was disowned by the family. Jumping forward, as we will not spend time on details that are so easy to find. We come from Cain through his lineage to Abraham. We have skipped many generations and many centuries. Many things we leave for you to find out for yourself. You do not learn unless you do the work yourself. We cannot spoon-feed everything to you, nor should you believe everything we say without proving it to yourself. One woman, called Hagar, had Abraham's firstborn son named Ishmael in 1860 BC. Mother and child were both outcast because of jealousy and the excuse that she had bad blood. They eventually settled in the wilderness of Paran, which is now Palestine, where Ishmael married a girl from his mother's homeland of Egypt and Saudi Arabian areas. We have discussed the Khadr tribe, the female line, in our DNA videos and suggest you watch them for more detail on this. We will continue on. One of Abraham's many grandsons was Jacob. Jacob born 1791 BC and was a twin. You will see twins pop up frequently. He had 12 sons which went out to their own areas. Once their families were too large. By large we mean that each family had several thousand members. Being so large, they were each given a piece of land around the Middle East, Mediterranean and down towards Africa. This area was called Canaan, the land of Canaan, not to be confused with the man we will discuss next. This is the same area Rome with puppet Israel are attempting to take over currently. As we have discussed before, the bloodline wishes to reclaim its birthright. The 12 brothers' families called clans or tribes are in their father Jacob's land of Canaan, where they have separated to different areas given to them within Canaan. There is a bit of confusion through our history books today, so we will clear that up here. Remember who controls what you know. These families, they do not want you to know the truth, so they will keep it from you and easily can. The tribe of Dan included the relatives descended from Jacob's son Dan, Jacob's son Naphtali, and Jacob's son Asher. The 3 sons' families had grown so large, containing tens of thousands of people in each one. The 3 tribes were grouped together and had camped together for a long time. This is one area there is much disinformation on. People assume tribe of Dan means one family line, but it is 3. Dan was the largest family of the 3 by over 5,000 relatives. Talk about having a family barbecue with that crowd. We see the elite come from this tribe of Dan. These 3 families. So we will look deeper at these 3. We will not lump them together as everyone else has, as it only creates lies and confusion. These 3 sons' families camped facing north, the direction their descendants traveled later on. A bit about Dan and Naphtali themselves. They were twins, born in 1703 BC of a woman who had a different DNA from their father, his wives, and their stepbrothers. They were white, light-haired with light eye color, and they were unnaturally large and strong. Naphtali, like his mother, was deep into the occult and very aggressive. Naphtali means wrestling, and the symbol of this family is the deer or stag. Dan was in fact commanded, when he received his inheritance, to be a judge and watcher, to keep his brothers in check. Typical big brother stuff. His family adopted the symbol of the scales of justice and can be followed through history with this, as well as the symbol of the horned viper. Unlike the snake or serpent symbols used to distort, the horned viper, which was the same word used for scorpion in that time, was our equivalent to a fox. Quick, wise, cunning, camouflaged, dealing swift judgment on any who passed too close without bias. The mutant DNA their mother, Bilhah, had is only passed through the women and only forms in certain of their offspring. Dan was white-skinned, light-haired and light-eyed, tall and strong like his twin, but not abnormally large like a giant, or disfigured. This race has been called Qualkas, Elohim, Sumerians, and the elder race Aryan. Needless to say, Dan and Naphtali were outcasts in their darker tone family, as was Asher because he was born out of marriage by a different woman. Not to mention for many generations their families lived next to each other. This made the 3 families very close. They had the common bond of being outcasts and offspring of different women. As they grew, their families became even closer, and finally as tensions grew between the 12 tribes, the 3 decided to leave Canaan and the lands given to them by their inheritance, and sail around in search of their own land. Thus the first pirates and Vikings were born. The 3 tribes became deeply involved in trade, gold, produce, and opium. These things have always been and will always be controlled by the bloodline. These are their sources for constant income. We can see the Vikings used the Viper's appearance as their ship's structure, making it as easy to glide across the water as the snake glides across sand, silent and quick. While the pirate ships, clearly meant to carry goods, slaves, fur soldiers, and especially heavy weapons like cannons. They have always been a war-loving people. That is one major way to follow the bloodline. Simply look at the wars and revolutions around the world and you will find them. Or of course, follow the money, or follow the drugs, or follow the religions. Follow anything really. If you look deep enough, it will lead you to the elite. This makes it easy to see the difference in the tribes and their histories. knowing the interests in DNA. To mention Naphtali's family for a moment more, one of the first locations we see the tribe is Arcadia, which is Greece. We can see their language written in Akkadian archaeology, called Akkadian cuneiform, a written language or dashes and dots. It is seen today in an app for Twitter. Documents note their shepherding skills, wealth, beauty, piety and merchant status, which they kept through history. Around this time, we come across a few notable members of the tribe. The elite families are proud to claim ancestry to Nimrod, a Babylonian also known as Akkadian king, described as a giant, a murderous tyrant, and descendant of Cain. Nimrod, the great-great-grandson of Noah and son of Cush, lived about 2268 to 1868 BC. He built not only Babylon, later called Akkadia, but also Erech, Nineveh and Calneh. Now we call his land Assyria. Nimrod's uncle, Canaan, not to be confused with the land of Canaan, had sons who also carried the bloodline. Remember, these families called tribes were tens of thousands of relatives and covered much of the land at that time. Canaan's sons were Zetan, Heth, Amori, Girgashi, Hivi, Arki, Seni, Arodi, Zemodi and Chamath. Sargon of Akkad is documented as a Semitic Akkadian emperor and was famous for his takeover of the Sumerian area in the 23rd and 22nd centuries BC. In Akkadian his name was Saru-Kinu, meaning the true king or the king is legitimate. He killed the Cush king and usurping his throne before embarking on the quest to conquer Mesopotamia. He is the first documented king we see from the Naphtali family, since they typically had their Keter wives named queen, leaving the male as the secondary and lower power. As we have discussed many times before, they believe women are superior as they carry the blood. They make their high gods in female form. Now we have come quite a long ways in years. While we have been talking the sons of Jacob, the families have had many generations and formed their own tribes. They have traveled all over the place, from Israel to Russia to Asia to Rome. We will get more into these areas in time to come. However, in an attempt to reduce confusion, we will continue with those of the Naphtali tribe of the elite for now. In our previous videos in the All in the Family series, we have detailed the genealogies of the papal elite bloodlines back to the tribes. In this video we have gone to the beginning of the line. It will take several videos to bridge the gap, so let us continue looking at the elite's tribes. The family of Naphtali was deep into astrology and were intimate with the tribe of Keter because of Bilhah's blood. King David's son Solomon was born of a woman descended from Bilhah's tribe, the tribe of Keter. So the two main tribes who have made up the elite bloodlines are the Keters and Naphtali's. Naturally, some from the tribe of Dan as well as the tribe of Asher have mixed into this. But it is easy to spot the majority of the pure blood of the elite are from the combining of these two tribes. The star we see and are told is the Star of David has nothing to do with the house of David, but rather we see yet again the elite deception, using the pagan pentagram for sun worship, star, Saturn worship, Satan, the star which was the symbol of David's son Solomon. Though Solomon did have a change of heart by the end of his life, he was married to a pagan sun worshipper from the tribe of Keter and was deeply involved in the occult himself as well. He was also a master builder, a mason. Unlike David, who was forbidden, the Star of David is in reality the seal of Solomon, and once again the world believes a lie. We see the star, sun halo covering history, art and statues, marking the trail of the Jesuit, Zionist, Freemason, Satanic, popes and rulers even today. This halo or sun represents illumination, Lucifer. Everything is inverted, opposite. This elite group hides behind a facade and twisted definition of Judah, derogatory term they created for those from the tribe of Judah. Their hated enemies, their brothers from another mother, the people they have murdered relentlessly for centuries, and the very people they claim to be. The perfect cover. Keep your enemies closer. The elite control the world and they think they control you. Sadly, so do you, and so many do not even care. Remember this. They control everything and own nothing. Today we see the families controlling governments and all powers on earth. Do you know what they own? Their car, their jets and planes. No, they own nothing. Why do you think it matters so little to them if taxes are higher for the upper class in countries like America? They are not taxed. They starve people in Africa and Venezuela. They do not care because they do not starve. They do not care for you. They simply hold the cards of control. Money. They control you to keep you at arm's length. To keep you from opening your mind and freeing your potential. They keep you brainwashed and deceived in every facet of life. They think you are a pestilence that must be destroyed. You must understand that. They think you are a pestilence that must be destroyed. To get a time frame again. About 900 BC King David had come to reign. Just as the three families called the tribe of Dan began traveling around. After David, his Kedar-blooded son Solomon also married a Kedar woman and daughter of the Pharaoh and began worshipping Ashtoreth like her. Ashtoreth, known as Star or Sun, also known as Astarte, Chian, Chiron, Remphan, Rael and Saturn, derived from Satan. Solomon built altars using the symbol of the star we here referred to as the Star of David, more directly the Star of Judah.
Do you like? Do you like? Yeah, me too. What if kitty.
This is where one major confusion begins. If you follow historical documents closely, you can identify the differences and see clearly which tribes went where. The culmination of the three tribes known as Dan traveled west to the American continent where some of the Asian tribes stayed. Here we see Native American Indian tribes and further down.
Something about you.
The tribe of Asher split when the tribe of Dan traveled back toward Canaan. The Asher tribe settled in their brother's mother's homeland of Egypt and Arabian areas. Remember the power and the
Let me just say this. Satan and his cult and what it's doing and will do to our children.
The rest of the Dan tribe
Whether you believe
in
occultism, whether you believe that Satan can give you the things that he's promised to his kids, then become satanic murderers. It's not only here to stay, but here to get worse. You're going to hear some warnings and see some warnings about some things that you better think about, including music. Including music.
I'd rather be. I would away forever, exalted in the sea. As long as I am with you, my heart continues to beat. I'd rather be. We take Kyoto to the bay, strolling so casually. We're different and the same. Gave you another name. Switch up the batteries. Shake me. I'd rather be. I'd rather be.
We live on an industrial reservation. We are the Halusa Nation. We have been called the Indians. We have been called Native Americans.
¿Y a ti? ¿Qué te pasó? Ya, pasa. Deja eso ahí. La otra india que tenía MJ ahí en el peor momento. Bueno, ya está acá. Como verás, esta casa está hecha un chiquero.
Parte por los baños. Las cosas del aseo están debajo del lavaplato. Cambia las sábanas después que están en el closet de la entrada.
Pedro Pablo, mi marido. Bueno, no nos escucha. Lo que tienes que hacer tú es aseo profundo.
Es que viene una gran artista canadiense. Dido. Bueno, es que nosotros apoyamos la cultura. Nos gusta apoyar a estos artistas, a esta gente creativa.
Ven. Tienes todo claro, ¿no es cierto? Cualquier cosa me mandas un WhatsApp. Yo estoy siempre conectada. Ojo que hay cámaras. Ya, vuelvo a almorzar.
You, everything I did for you, all the hardship we went through, I'll do it all again for you, from the beginning for you, everything I did for you, all the hardship we went through, I'll do it all again for you, from the beginning it's true, I'll do it all again for you, all the hardship we went through, I'll do it all again for you, From the beginning for you, everything I do for you, all the hardship we went through, I'll do it all again for you, from the beginning it's true, I'll do it all again for you, all the hardship we went through, I'll do it all again for you,
Gordita, ¿estás conmigo? Venga.
it here in this family as well. We have previously mentioned their love of 3 and how and why this is used in all they do, so we will not go into this extensively in this video. As we know, these families all intermarry. This brings the bloodlines to an eventual point where there is so much intermingling it is very repetitive to go through each family genealogy. They are all practically the same, but that means we have less people to find for each name. We have named many from each family already, so we will not repeat the ones we have already covered. The Aldobrandini have a palace on top of one of the 7 hills in Rome naturally. The main families still own the original land they did thousands of years ago. Their hill in Rome is called Quirinalus Hill. The story goes that it was on this hill that holy shields landed when they fell from heaven. This would be the fallen ones. The palace is complete with pillars of Hercules, Atlas holding the orb, the Star of Aldebaran on his shoulders, and even what is called a forest giant. As we have mentioned in previous videos and will continue to repeat, no statue, no painting, no name of a hill, came from nothing. These things all have very deep and specific meaning, down to the colors they use. There are no coincidences. That is a term they made up to once again fool you and hide themselves. We must understand the terms, signs, symbols, they and we use and why. We must be vigilant and pay attention so we are not deceived. In the side of the hill behind the house on Quirinalus Hill, an area of the rock face is revealed and carved into it an angry face with the mouth is the entrance leading into the hill. We have seen these demon faces used for human sacrifices back to the days of Babylon and before. Nothing changes. And we have seen these same faces in properties owned by the elite. Those who have always done the human sacrifices to Lucifer through all of history. Remember the Farnese family had these faces in their gardens as well, leading to tunnels in the hills which interconnect. The elite never have to be seen in public. The 7 hills of Rome, the palaces of the elite, are connected by their underground tunnels. Like worms they crawl in darkness. As we researched these tunnel systems, one can see in satellite images of the entrance a large opening on the other side of the hill as well as one directly across the ravine from it leading into the next. The oak forest surrounding the villa is stunning. Large old oaks looming high overhead giving wonderful shade to the dirt bags around the gardens and waterfalls. As one would expect of any palace, which cost an exorbitant amount of money. It is breathtaking, as they all are, even in its current state of disrepair, covered in giant paintings of their ancestors and hand-carved stone statues, such elegance hiding their empty coldness behind a thin covering of beautiful deception. One of the major paintings of this family is the Aldobrandini Madonna painted in 1509 by Raphael, showing the Trinity. Naturally, the 3 Luciferians and occultists always believe in a Trinity. The Madonna goddess Isis, the child on her lap who is handing a flower to the 3rd, a child with a cone of fur symbolizing Pan Lucifer, at her side. Each has the iconic incomplete halo which represents the incomplete ring of Saturn Satan, which they worship. We are told the halo is for the holy. How easily we are deceived. It represents the sun Lucifer, being present in all those who have won. Now think about the paintings you have seen which contain halos. Now that you know what the halo represents, worship of Lucifer, just as children in paintings and statues represent pedophilia. They always tell their stories. They tell them straight out and only give us a different narrative to deceive those who do not see between the lies. Pay attention. Can you see what is really going on in this one? Keeping in mind the red for blood sacrifice. The woman in red with the 3 children brought for offering. The 2 men shaking hands over a dead goat making a deal. The finger points to the children as if it is not already obvious. Meanwhile the man identified as an elite by the wreath on his head, hiding the sticks as the child watches him. Do you see it all yet? Or is this just what you call a beautiful old painting? These people were real. These children existed. We cover symbolism extensively in our document El the Bloodlines, other articles on our website, and in other videos we have done in the past. We will not go into the symbolism more here, but we must make an effort to break you of your brainwashing so you can see the reality you live in. Remember, next time you see a painting, magazine cover, CD or movie cover, pictures the elite produce for you, realize who painted it and what each thing represents. Colors, positioning, facial expressions, lighting, hand signals, and much more have great and serious meaning to those in the occult. It is not a joke. The masses are given a meaningless narrative of life from the time they are born. People are kept at a subhuman level of knowledge and way of life. It is not even noticed by most. People only function on animalistic levels. But even animals today, even wild animals, have more moral structure than most people today. People go by a store window and see everything covered in symbols and know nothing about the mind control programming they are under. The elite laugh at you every day. You wear their symbols and acknowledge and worship their god Lucifer, and you do not even know. It is called deception. The occult plays opposites, codes, symbols, signs. This is how they communicate. That is why movies and songs always have a meaning that most do not understand, at least not the first time they hear it. The elite laugh at you when you listen to their songs promoting pedophilia and human sacrifice and cannibalism. You can find these references in most every song on the radio today. You are already being programmed to accept it as normal for the next stage of the New World Order. And what is worse, you do not even care. You laugh and sing with the songs. Disgusting. If you would only pay attention to what you are letting yourself listen to, repeatedly, until it is stuck in your head. The programming is absolute and you have no idea. Nor do you try to stop it. Words have meaning. Or does it not bother you because they tell you it looks like this? And not this. We could make several extensive videos on all of this, but there is simply no time and you must do your own work to find the truth. That is what your life is for. So pay attention. Who do you listen to? What do they say and what do their words really mean to them? Know your enemy. Find truth. Be human again. Another painting including an Aldo Brandini was done by Domenico Ghirlandaio and was the altarpiece in a church in San Domenico. It depicts Vincenzo Ferrari, Sebastiano and Rago with Pandolfo VI and his wife Violante Benivoglio, his mother Elisabetta Aldo Brandini, and his brother Carlo, kneeling at their feet. The Aldo Brandini are of course Knights of Malta, as are all of these elite families. The name Aldo Brandini comes from Aldebaran, also called Alpha Tauri in Hebrew, Al-Barbaran in Arabic, which translates to following Ten, the fallen. This is the name of the Alpha, or morning star, representing the fallen angel in the Taurus Huon Bull constellation. You know, the count jumping over the moon. Because of its location it is called the bullseye star of illumination, the third eye and the all-seeing eye, which is the eye of Lucifer. To name a few, Aldebaran is brightest star of the constellation Taurus. The star is often occulted, which means covered, by the moon. The moon represents Isis, the mother female goddess in occult. The star of illumination is a class K star because of its magnitude, its brightness. It is the 13th brightest star in the sky. This is no coincidence. This 13th brightest star has a burnt orange hue like a smoldering fire. If we had to choose the all-seeing eye of the elite family, I do not think you need me to point out which one makes sense. This star was used for navigation long ago and especially worshipped by the Magi. We hope remember this term for the ancient Jesuits, as we have discussed it before. These families are all from the ancient Persian region, Babylon. They were kings and priests just as we see them today. Magi is a title meaning sorcerer priests, magical ones, and magic is only in Luciferian occult. These elite Jesuit families we have discussed thus far are Magi still today. The name has changed from Magi to Zoroastrian to Jesuit through time. The blood remains the same. The terms mean nothing. They change as needed. Just like history and science and religion, they change and make us needed for deception. But let us continue with the Magi. The Aldobrandini, who were Magi, once found out for what they were, had to change and hide. So they named themselves as Zoroastrians. This is a very specific cult. We think it is worth mentioning the basics of the background here, since this particular line, the Aldobrandini of today, are direct descendants of Zoroaster himself. One can only be a Zoroastrian priest by blood, typical as we have noted many times before. This will also clearly link the bloodline straight back to the tribe of Naphtali as discussed in our document L, and by this direct connection of this bloodline to the tribe Naphtali, that leads directly back to Cain, thus proving once again the bloodline's authenticity, and once again completely disproving and shattering the lies they have given to us in historical, scientific, religious propaganda, revealing the only one true living and incorruptible truth. To those who understand this, it is impossible to acknowledge the lies again. To those who do not understand this, most of you never will be able to, because you will never open your minds past the programming you have been given. You will continue to deny truth however it is shown to you. But we digress. Let us continue with these Zoroastrians up. The Zoroastrian motto is Huamata, Huvta, Hvarshta, which translates to purest thoughts and meditations, purest words of power and wisdom, and purest manifestation and realization. These priests, often called kings, had power over the rulers. These priests had the power to order crusades, grant invasions, divorces, codes of conduct, and they were in charge of selecting teachers, advisors and rulers, wives for rulers and others. Can you see the total control they had back then? They granted piety, passed laws, created missionaries. They also put in place the idea of divine blood so they could continue to marry within their families. Does any of this sound familiar to you? They allowed concubines, which they selected more distant relations for in order to keep the crazy genes at bay, selecting only the ones with the best of their blood to continue ruling and breeding, exactly as they do today. Nothing has changed and history repeats and repeats, because people are content to live in their dreams and lies while others suffer and die for it. In this time they created a point system, which is a bit complex, to give people a certain amount of piety. These piety points, assessed and distributed by the priests, could allow continue ruling and breeding, exactly as they do today. Nothing has changed and history repeats and repeats, because people are content to live in their dreams and lies while others suffer and die for it. In this time they created a point system, which is a bit complex, to give people a certain amount of piety. These piety points, assessed and distributed by the priests, could allow the earner of them to be next in line for emperor priest, and on down the line, whatever you wanted to be. You had to have the points and be given the position by the Zoroastrians. Much like today, they chose who has the most points at Bilderberg and other meetings. So if your family had been in bad standing with the priests, one could earn the points of piety needed to enter into their good graces again, through select good deeds, so-called natural selection at its finest. Zoroaster Spitama was the founder of Zoroastrian cult. He lived in what is called Raga in Avestan, which is in Iran and was part of the Persian Empire. Raga means plain, hillside. Zoroaster's father was from Atropatene in Media and his mother was from Ray. His patron was the king Vishtaspa. He married Hophii, who was an Avestan high priestess. He opposed the use of the Homa plant, He also opposed polytheism and an oppressive class system in Persia. Why was he against a plant, and what plant is this? The name means the divine, and according to ancient studies, this natural plant's most dangerous side effects include healing on various levels, joy, peace, intellectual stimulation, and was described as the best for the soul's journey. Accompanied by joyous truth, this plant, the Homa plant, has been kept illegal across the world to this day by the elite. So what do we call it now? We know it as marijuana, and it has been proven to make brainwashing and mind control techniques ineffective. Think about it. Zoroaster's followers spread quickly, and fire temples were built in Armenia in his honor, which led to the rise of the Achaemenid Empire. Zoroaster's spy Tama was finally murdered and of course named a prophet. Jamasta, who married his daughter and was a devout disciple and became Zoroaster's successor. Zoroaster is depicted wearing white robes, holding a Devarza, which is a steel rod crowned by a bull's head, which only priests carry in their installation ceremony, and a Varsam, also called bearsman or wand, a bundle of sticks. The number of sticks differs depending on the ceremony, which is also only used by the highest priests. He is typically seen with hands raised using the hand symbols of the occult. The Zoroastrian symbol is easily recognized today and is called the Faravaha. The ones and other trinkets are used in cult ceremonies to this day. King Darius, who we see here, was one of many kings deceived by the Zoroastrians and wrote of them saying, I snowed them and took prisoner 9 kings. One was Gautama by name, a Magian. He lied. Thus he said, I am Smertis, the son of Cyrus. One Asina by name, an Elamite. He lied. Thus he said, I am King Enlil. One Nut-in-Tubal by name, a Babylonian. He lied. Thus he said, I am Nebuchadnezzar, the son of Nabonidus. 3 kings, 3 lies. Years later, during Alexander's invasion of Persia, Cyrus's tomb was broken into and looted. Cyrus, like Alexander, disliked the Magi. When Alexander reached the tomb, he was horrified by the manner in which it had been treated and put the Magi on trial. Some write that Alexander put the Magi on trial in an attempt to undermine their influence and display his own power. Through time, many have tried to stand against them, but far too many are willing to live in lies and allow them to continue. In 530 BC, Cambyses I, the son of Cyrus, was in Egypt when Zoroastrian priests, then called Magi, usurped the throne. Gautama, one of the high priests, ruled for 7 months. The Magi, though persecuted, continued to exist, and a year following the death of the first Gautama, a second named Vajrasadtta attempted another coup. Things go on like this in these ancient times constantly, making it quite an exciting educational experience. One priest of this bloodline, Kartir, led a crusade to purify Zoroastrianism to obliterate what he saw as heresies. The elite have always been the leaders of the crusades. He carved the Zoroastrian teachings on rock faces of mountains, which can still be seen in Iran and throughout the Middle East today. The Zoroastrians believed fire was sacred, and Kartir limited the use of fire by the Jews of that date, including flames used in lamps. They tried to dominate education among the real Jews and destroyed synagogues, and did many inhumane things to them, as they always have. One historian, Al-Sharastani, describes the Majusiya Magi as having 3 sects. The 3 are the Kayumarthaya, the Zeraniya, and the Zaradushtya, of which the last were the only true followers, those of the true blood. The teachings of Zoroaster can be found in the Quran. Shortly before the birth of Muhammad, his soon-to-be disciples invaded Persia, came in contact with the Zoroastrian people and learned their teachings. They at once came to the conclusion that the original Zoroaster was really a divinely inspired prophet and taught all they knew to Muhammad. Muhammad then traveled to study and become a disciple of Zoroaster's teachings. They adopted all of the teachings of the sorcerer and erased his name from their copies of the documents, creating Muhammad as the new Zoroaster. as one such verse of many in the Quran explains. And we did send apostles before thee. There are some of them that we have mentioned to thee, and there are others whom we have not mentioned to thee. The Muslims treated the founder of Zoroastrianism as a true prophet and believed in his religion and other inspired creeds, and thus, according to the Zoroastrian prophecy, protected the Zoroastrian religion. Zoroastrians later educated the Greeks, the Asians, and many others, since they always put an emphasis on being missionaries, infecting the world, as they continue to do today. Now, as we can see, being a Zoroastrian missionary often required one to not mention that he was Zoroastrian. They lived in secrecy and by oath, again, as they still do today. After a few hundred years of their bloody rule, when the Persian Empire fell, they spread out and changed their names. As always, this is where the Pharisees, Fratres Arvels, Jupiter Ammon and others come in. If you do not understand the elite, then you will never see their links. They use multiple names, different spellings of those different names. So one must look deeper and not be confused by changing of names and terms. When they did this a while ago, they called it the Mandela effect, and the masses believed that insanity and look no further as to who is rewriting the history. One elite group of the Zoroastrians, when they were dispersed at the fall of the Persian Empire, formed in the Taurus Mountains and called their territory Ulba. Ajax was high priest of Ulba from 27 BC to 14, spread out and changed their names. As always, this is where the Pharisees, Fratres Arvels, Jupiter Ammon and others come in. If you do not understand the elite, then you will never see their links. They use multiple names, different spellings of those different names. So one must look deeper and not be confused by changing of names and terms. When they did this a while ago, they called it the Mandela effect, and the masses believed that insanity and look no further as to who is rewriting the history. One elite group of the Zoroastrians, when they were dispersed at the fall of the Persian Empire, formed in the Taurus Mountains and called their territory Ulba. Ajax was high priest of Ulba from 27 BC to 14 and united with Rome, which was under the rule of his cousin Augustus. Augustus brought the priests back to power, and the lineage is easy to follow just by looking at the rulers of Rome and who they were replaced by those of the bloodlines. From here we have explained how they took over the Vatican and have controlled it to this day, so we will not go into detail on that here. Augustus also formed alliances with Herod and Alexander. Since the Roman Empire was so expanded, each new edition still had a ruler of its own, now placed under the rule of Caesar. You will find most of them are priests, like Archelaus, who was a Cappadocian high priest and ruled his area the same time his cousin Ajax was in power, as we mentioned before in our documents. The Magi in the Christmas story everyone knows. The three wise men were Zoroastrian priests, high priests called kings. The three Magi have never been named officially, but we have found them. These three Magi are the only high priests who fit all of the requirements: extensive knowledge of astrology, practicing advanced sorcery, strong ties to Herod, who hired them to spy on all male births in that time because of his paranoia, and of course of the elite bloodlines. These are the only ones who fit the description and were in the correct locations, educations, and positions during 1 BC. Their names are Joasar ben Bohis, Eleazar ben Bohis, and Joshua ben Sai. This is confirmed by historians like Josephus and other record keepers of the time. As all facts we document and give to you, they did not complete Herod's command to bring the child to be murdered, but rather helped the family escape to Egypt until it was safe to return. But that story is for another time. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche writes of the teachings of Zoroaster, having been a Zoroastrian himself. Irish poet William Butler Yeats and his wife claimed to have contacted Zoroaster through a copyright dance. Hitler wrote many times of Zoroaster, using his teachings in many of his experiments. In Manhattan, New York, the Appellate Division of the Supreme Court of New York has a sculpture of Zoroaster towering over the building, as well as at the Rockefeller Memorial Chapel in the campus of the University of Chicago. Does one ever wonder who those people are the government's place on top of huge important buildings? Many government-protected archaeological sites contain Zoroastrian writings, symbols, statues and other monuments, and most are in Iran, Turkey and the other countries once included in the Persian Empire. All that happens today can be easily explained if one would really look at history. The devil is in the details. The maps and the agendas the elite go by today are no different than those they carried out in time past. Sites such as Kavani-Zardasht, which is the cube of Zoroaster, the black cube of Saturn. The black stone is used for satanic altars used to sacrifice children. A monument at Naqsh Rustam and the seventh wonder of the world. Mausoleum at Halicarnassus or Tomb of Mausolus in Turkey are perfect examples of some of the earliest icons the Jesuits still recreate today. Their history, again, is so filled with important details it is difficult to decide which ones to mention here. We will continue on now as the history of this line has been reasonably established. Now, can you remember the 13th brightest star we discussed earlier called Aldebaran? We will continue with this now. In 1972, NASA sent a message to extraterrestrials. They sent the signals to this star specifically. Aldebaran is one of the 4 royal stars of the ancient Persians, the Magi, the Jesuits. The others are Antares and Scorpius, Regulus and Leo, and Fomalhaut and the southern fish. As one story goes, Aldebaran was a fallen angel who attempted to seduce an Assyrian queen in the form of a bull man. You will notice these such stories are the same for each family, though the half-breed is different. Some are fish men, others are goat men, and this family prefers bulls. The Aldobrandini of today have massive orgies, which Stanley Kubrick has been present for multiple times, getting his inspiration for Eyes Wide Shut, while naturally it had to be kept extremely subdued to viewers. There is a portrait of Kubrick inside the main hall of the Aldobrandini home, with his autograph giving thanks to the Aldobrandini family for supporting his films. Picasso, fellow Jesuit and funded by the family, based his Taurus paintings off of the orgies held at their castles and lodges. The Taurus represents the Pope, who is always and has always been present. Around 1360 we see Giorgio Aldobrandini, who married Margherita Berlingeri and had 2 sons. Their son Jacopo and his wife Juliana had one son named after Jacopo father, Giorgio. Aldobrandini, yes, the names do get nauseating, was born in 1388. He married Margherita Orlandini and they had 2 sons, Giovanni and Salvestro. Sal married twice with one son from each marriage. Joe and Aldobrandino. Joe had a son who became a cardinal. Again, as we mentioned earlier, keep in mind everyone in these lines whom we mentioned here are Knights of Malta. They are all Jesuits. The son of Antonio Bevilacqua, the Count of Macastorna, was born in 1571. He became Cardinal Pope Bonifacio Bevilacqua Aldobrandini. You may notice we are skipping many years here. This is because it is so easy to look up these people to find more should you wish to do so with the info we divulge here. In 1545, Jacopo Aldobrandini, great-great-grandson Gianfrancesco Aldobrandini was born. His only brother Cenzio became the cardinal. Gianfrancesco married Olimpia Aldobrandini, Princess of Rossano Calabro. They had 6 children. Their daughter Margherita married Ranunzio I Farnese, Duke of Parma and Piacenza. One of their sons, Silvestro Aldobrandini, became the cardinal, naturally, and his sister Lucrezia Aldobrandini married Marino I Caracciolo, the 3rd Prince of Avellino. Elena Aldobrandini married Antonio Graffa Gonzaga Carlo, Duke of Savineta. Giorgio Aldobrandini, Prince of Rossano and Sarsina, married Ippolita Lodovici. Ippolito Aldobrandini was born to them in 1592 and became Pope Clement VIII. Ippolito Aldobrand and his cousin, who is called his brother, became Cardinal Giovanni Aldobrandini. Since he was a child, his handler was Philip Neri. When Aldobrandini became Pope, Neri replaced himself as his guide with Baronius. Aldobrandini reluctantly made him cardinal and confessed to him daily. He implemented the 40 hours devotion. This is a written prayer lasting 40 hours. Aldobrandini and his counts Incenzio Passeri Aldobrandini were made cardinals by their uncle Clement VIII. He founded the Cagio Clementino in Rome as well as the Cagio Scazis. He revised, meaning changed, edited, altered many documents. He was a very busy pope. There were wars he ended by deploying the church's army as well as replacing a few kings and queens who were disagreeable. Pope Clement VIII murdered Pope Francesco Sensi and his wealthy family, who had various estates and property. Pope and his children were arrested for the murder of their father. His son, Giacomo, was quartered with a mallet. His limbs were hung in 4 quarters. His daughters Lucrezia and Beatrice were beheaded. Pope Clement VIII then gave the properties of the Sensi to his family, the Aldobrandini, of course. He also burned philosopher Menacciel at the stake for being a heretic. Some papal laws Pope Clement VIII passed are as follows. The Comsi Pax Idea on February 28, 1592, which forbid the long-established Jewish community of Avignon to sell new goods, which forced them to make less income by only being allowed to have thrift shops. Next he passed the Cagata de Rada into law on February 25, 1593, confirmed the Bull of Pio Paul III from the 1540s, which established a ghetto for the community of Jews in Rome. Giovanni Aldobrandini as Clement VIII passed a Hebriorum Gens, February 26, 1569, which banned Jews from dwelling outside of the ghettos of Rome, Ancona and Avignon, thus ensuring that they remained city dwellers with no property of their own. With Cum Hebriorum Militia he created a ban on Jews altogether. A few days later he forbade the reading of the Talmud. Clement VIII referred to the Jews as Kika, which means blind obstinacy. Today Jesuits, Nazis and other anti-Semites still use the derogatory term, pronounced cock. Some of the people he murdered includes about 900 so-called witches, who were in reality female heretics. Those who stood against the rulers. All were burned at the stake. Scientist philosopher Giordano Bruno was burned at stake in Rome. 600 more people including young children were burned at the stake and many more are brutally tortured. During this time the Jesuit order formed the Verenigde Oost-Indische Compagnie of Aachen Dutch, which is the Dutch East India Company, the purpose of which was to establish trade monopolies for the exploitation of goods and materials identified by Jesuits disguised as missionaries throughout Asia. Today we call it the TPP. The funds gained by such trade were used to further the Jesuit order and the Roman Catholic Church. The VAC was the first international corporation with shares. It expanded their international drug cartel by shutting down anything outside the agreement. It created the commercialization of poppy harvesting for opium trade to China and Europe. This always goes hand in hand. The Silk Road was busted because it had been successful out of the clutches of the elite. The agenda.
See, there's a channel. I saw this last night from somebody linked me up on this. A channel by the name of let's see, it's something tech, web tech or something like that. Okay, listen. Bud, I saw your video dealing with the Q clearance, right? Or the QAnon. And you're accusing me of being that guy. What? Hold on a second. You're like, so is Q clearance Trump monographed. You even tried to blame Mrs. Beans. She's covering it. I'm covering it a little bit, but the person that's really covering it, well, actually, Mrs. Beans is covering it quite a bit, but Mr. Munder is really covering it. I mean, he's getting, like, in depth, reading all of it. 54-minute video. I watch them all, too. I sure do. But what I'm trying to say there, Mr. WebTech, or however you pronounce your screen name, how in the heck did you go from the President of the United States being Q clearance from that high up to suddenly monograph? I was just curious how you're coming up with that. It just doesn't even make sense. It doesn't. So if you could elaborate on your accusation, it'd be fantastic. It really would. Because, first of all, I don't even write like that. That's first of all. Second of all, it's not my style at all. I mean, do I look like a Q to you? I mean, truly. I just don't get people sometimes. It's just crazy to say, I got a guy that just want to read my palm, you know, shoot a little dice and all that, right? Thinking it's something about toenail polish, you know, that stuff is the craziest thing, you know, I just don't get it. Then I get another fella that is accusing me of being Q clearance. Wow, what is going on? I just don't get it, man. Listen, Mr. WebTech, I don't know who you are. I'm gonna find out. But here's the thing. I'm kind of like in shock, for real. Because I'm not that person. And I'm really not. Truly. I'm a nobody, dude. I'm a nobody. There's no way that I could obtain a picture that was taken from... I'm not with the White House press corps. Sorry. Do I know people that are? Not currently. Have I known people that were? Yes. But currently they're not. Okay? So that equation is gone. Okay? And that's being honest. That equation is gone. I'm not a fighter pilot because I don't know if people are aware of this, but when the President of the United States is in Air Force One, you know, where it says President of the United States, in other words, the big plane that carries him around, that's basically the White House on, you know, with wings. He's followed and escorted by 2 F-16s constantly. Right? So, Q clearance could technically be one of those pilots, if you think about it, right? But Q clearance, again, I'm not saying I'm right. I believe he either has dual citizenship or he's just British, period. It's just my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying it's a very good possibility. So, some people are saying it's AI. But again, Mr. WebTech, please, by all means, elaborate. How did you come to that conclusion? It's just a crazy thing. What's the next? You know what the next thing we need to talk about? We need to talk about memories, right? Because it's the memories. And, you know, my dad used to tell me all the time, he goes, you know, the women rule the world. I'm like, no, they don't. Like, it's a man's world. They're like, no. He's like, no, it's not. The women rule the world. And, you know, me and my father were having a chatty deal and we're getting bombed. You know what I'm talking about? And those are the best chatty dudes, aren't they, fellas? I mean, if you if you have a good relationship with your folks, where you can get with your father and go to the bar and shoot pool and smoke and drink, and then you go home and you continue that party, and all the parties end up in the kitchen. Have you noticed that? Where the knives are. All the parties end up in the kitchen. Why is it? You know, they move around, you know, they go from the porch, and then they crawl into the dining table, and next thing you know, you're standing at like the island in the kitchen. You're talking about this and that, and everybody's getting drinks, something to eat, and all that stuff. Well, you tell me, no. The women rule the world. So, and like I said, we were bombed, right? We're like, what do you mean the women rule the world? And he goes, well, let me tell you something, son. And he said, and how he explained it without all the hiccups, right? He explained it to me like this. He goes, think about it. Think about it. A man will go to work. He will break his ass for a full week, or 2 weeks, or a month, or whenever his pay schedule is, so that way he can maintain that Corvette, or maintain that, you know, pick something really nice car, Mercedes, or whatever, right? But why is he maintaining that vehicle if he's single? Because he's trying to impress the ladies. That same man will go to work. He'll work overtime so he can take his wife and his girlfriend, or a potential lady, to an exquisite vacation somewhere, maybe in Hawaii, maybe the Bahamas, pick a place. That same fella will go to work and just absolutely break his butt to make sure that his family, and especially his sweetheart, and these days, regardless of who that might be, so it's not really, well, yeah, I'm gonna stick with women because the conversation took place in like the 90s or some shit, right? He goes, think about it. A lot of fellas want the women to run the books. I've never been like that. I run my own books. And if I can't run my books because of business or whatever, then you hire somebody else to run your books. Because when you're in business, it's better to have somebody else run your books because you don't have time. But money's a nobody, so I don't have to worry about that. So I run my own books. In other words, all your accounting, right? But a lot of fellas these days, it's almost like a prerequisite for marriage or something. The ladies are running the books. There's nothing wrong with that, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, right? Because either they're good at it, or for some other reason. I'm not really sure. Maybe the fellas don't have time. But I tell you what, back in the day, man, when Monty was, you know, doing my own thing, I ran my own books. And when you're cutting checks every month for $3,700 between, you know, your lease or your mortgage and all your business expenses, and then your car rentals, and then your, you know, all this stuff. You know what I'm talking about, right? You know what I'm talking about. I would rather have control of my books, so if something went wrong, it's all on me. You can't, even if you hire an accountant, it doesn't matter if you hire an accountant or not. It doesn't matter. Because if something goes wrong when it comes to the accountant and the IRS, well, guess what? It's on you anyway. So why not run your own books? That's how I look at it, right? But anyway, when you think about it, well, at the time, yeah, the women rule the world. Yeah, I'll agree with that. Because the women have the buying power. They sure do. And women will, over the course of time, because, you know, I've been surrounded by these ladies, like, I'm not saying this in a derogatory way at all. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women have told me exactly what they think, exactly what they do, why they do it, the whole 9 yards. I'm like, I have these people people in the studio, and I'd be like, why are you telling me this? Because I feel like I can talk to you. And you understand. Okay, all right. You know, I wouldn't push it away because there's sometimes I'd want to ask those same women that wanted to confide in me, and I didn't even ask them. I'd want to ask them questions, be like, hey, so why do ladies do this? Or why do they do that? Or sometimes, you know, you're doing a shot or whatever you're doing, you have to go out, you gotta go shopping. Now, Mr. Trailer, don't get excited, okay? Sometimes, when you have the creative mind, things are moving in your brain so damn fast you can't even keep up yourself. But when you have a vision on what you want to do, and you have some sort of creative barometer ticking around upstairs, you can see the final product before you even begin. So sometimes you have to go shopping with the ladies to sit there and buy certain clothing to match what you're trying to do. Don't get excited. Yes, Monty has gone out with the ladies and shopped for clothing. Yes, not for myself, for them. Alright? However, the only reason why I didn't shop it for myself is because they wouldn't let me in the dressing room. But, you know, whatever. But what I'm trying to say, Mr. Trailer, is this is a new era. I'm kind of shocked that your mind is so closed. You should open it up a little bit, buddy. Open it up just a little bit, and you would see the world for the way it really is, instead of being so close-minded. It'll help you out, really. And, you know, you could, if you need some enhancement with that, you can drink some, I don't know, maybe some smoothies. That'll probably help you out too, okay? Or get your palm read or something, or shoot some dice. Whatever you gotta do, you know, just, there you go. Rub one out, whatever you gotta do, bud. Okay, just open your mind a little. Wow, I didn't really believe that people were so close-minded these days. I find it hard to believe. It's kind of like a shock. But anyway, so I'm just saying, listen, man, fellas, just be honest. Is that the best time of your life or what? When you're sitting there and you're getting bombed with your folks, or even your brothers or sisters. I mean, it's the greatest. Right? And here's another thing when you're talking about memories. Mr. God, I have a hard time with your screen name. It's, I think it's WebTech. I think that's how you say it. I don't know. If I say it I'm wrong, I apologize. When you're accusing me of being this Q clearance stuff, other people are suggesting that that is AI, artificial intelligence. Well, here's the thing that the humans have up on the AI. You can program it for anything you want. You can make it look like a human. You can make it talk like a human with the hair and the eyes and the mannerisms. But guess what? Humans have an advantage over the AI because we have actual memories. Memories of places and people. They can't compete with that, buddy. No, they cannot. They don't have the emotional structure like humans do. Sorry. You can program into them, says, okay, well, you were in Hawaii in, 1974 or some crap, right? It doesn't mean squat, bud. Because, here's the thing. When you get on the phone, and you're talking to your folks, or your family members, or sweetheart, whatever you're doing, you get on the phone, you're talking to them, you can actually hear the inflection in their voice and their emotion of how they're talking to you, right? Or the things that they're saying. You laugh together in that. Because you're remembering a certain time, or place, or situation. AI is not going to compete with that. Sorry. It's not going to happen. So, if that Q clearance individual is AI, care less. care less. Because apparently they're not being sneaky enough, because people like Mrs. Benz and Mr. Munder and myself and others are figuring out those clues relatively quickly. Right? So if AI is made out to be something special, you're not very special, because people are already figuring it out. Mrs. Benz, if you see this video, I have to admit, when you played the clip where it shows without a shadow of a doubt that Snow White is actually Snowden, that was fantastic. So I'm convinced that Snow White is, in fact, Snowden. And it has nothing to do with Vietnam and, you know, the Snow White cell. No, I was wrong on that. And I'm going to stick with the Snowden, because the CIA computers, the 7 dwarves, are the CIA computer databases that are located in Langley. So anyway, Mrs. Benz, that was fantastic, by the way. That was awesome. That sealed the deal for me, because I already found the information dealing with the 7 dwarves. So good on you, right? But getting back to memories, memories is everything. It is. You know, you get on the computer and you send somebody a Skype message, or you can send somebody an email, or you can text somebody something, whatever it is, but they cannot hear the inflection in your voice. They cannot see you eye to eye. No way, no how. It's just a bunch of numbers and letters on a computer screen. It means nothing. But see, it suddenly changes when you can look at them eye to eye and speak with them face to face. That's the only way to fly. So all this AI stuff means nothing to me. It's garbage. Because if the power goes out, if there's a computer virus that knocks out the entire internet, what do you have left? Yeah, there you go again. You would be forced to have face-to-face, person-to-person, eye-to-eye contact for communication. If you had no power, if you had no internet, right? Yes, that would be right. And all this AI garbage would mean what? Nothing. Nothing. It would mean nothing. AI would be powerless. So now we're going to get to time for another drink. Let's do it. All right, dinner, cheers. It's long winter, I'm sorry. Lonnie had a real busy day and I'm kind of relaxing. I figured, well, why not share with a big old chatty dude? And to the guy that sent me this shirt, it's kick-ass. Check this out. Isn't that neat? I mean, what a sport. He sends me this shirt. It's got the, like, a October Rain skull on it and that. Got the little Federal Reserve note thing going on. I appreciate it more than you know. You know who you are. But, here's a serious part of this is going back to when you envision a project, when you envision the final or the completed your creative endeavor, whatever it is you're thinking about, when you envision the final product, you're almost to a point of compulsion. I mean, I never understood why people are addicted to things, you know? Like you probably say, oh, Monty, you're addicted to cigarettes. No, I'm not, because I quit cold turkey, just like that. And I did for 8 days about a couple of months ago, because I kind of had to. I was kind of forced to, but at the same time, I wasn't forced to quit for 8 days. I was forced to quit for 24 hours, right? But I quit for 8 days. And let me tell you something, if you're going to quit smoking, the best day to start quit smoking is a Monday. Because it's a fresh day, it's a fresh week, and you have fresh thoughts. So you party and just get it all out of your system on Saturday and Sunday, and then Monday, boom, you wake up and you just don't do anything. You stop smoking. That's the best way to do it, in my opinion. But I enjoy smoking. People say, oh, Monty, that's going to kill you. I walk out the door and a plane could hit me. Okay, so whatever. That's how I look at that stuff. If you enjoy something, you're not hurting anybody, you're not hurting yourself. I mean, you might say, well, you are hurting yourself, but you don't know what I know about me. Because, I mean, just recently I had like chest x-rays, and it's a weirdest thing, too. They make you breathe in, and they take the picture, and then they have you lock your tongue, turn sideways, and they're taking it to the side and the back, and all that nonsense. They're like, wow, your lungs are in great condition. I'm like, what? That means I'd smoke another 40 years, right? But what I'm trying to say as far as when you envision something and you have a creative endeavor and you can already see the finished product, it's like you're almost for the people that have creative minds. I don't even have to tell you this because you understand it. But you're almost going to some sort of compulsive order. It's the strangest thing. I can't even explain to you. Like the other night, a couple of days ago rather, Monty gets to editing these videos. And I'm figuring, well, maybe I can start on this video. I'll start it and see how it goes. And then I can't put it down. I can't put it down until everything's edited perfectly with the music and just, you know what I mean? Because it's like, you're compulsive. You got to do it. You have to make sure that everything is right and tight and perfect and all that stuff. And it's not, oh, I got to go back to it again. And then you get mad at yourself. You go, oh, you can't let that go. It's not perfect. Then you go back and make it perfect. Like, yeah, I'm glad I went back and made it perfect. You know what I mean? But when you see something, a finished product that hasn't even been started yet, it drives you, man. I can't even explain it. It drives you into thinking, okay, if I do that, okay, yeah, that'll work. So basically, what I'm trying to get to, I'm being long-winded about it, is it's about the memories, buddy. It's about the memories. That's what's key right here. So essentially, what is going to happen is I'm going to ask the public for postcards. Now I need to have the postcard. I'm going to give you an address, not address. I'm going to give you an address, right? I don't even want to say there'll be a place where you can send that. I need the tangible item because Monty is a nobody. Monty can't afford to go buy 300 or 400 postcards. I just can't do it. All right? So I'm asking those who want to. I'm not begging you. I'm just asking you. If you had a postcard, it doesn't even have to be new. That's a good thing. It doesn't even have to be new. Just a postcard that you don't mind giving to Monty for a project. And it's a pretty massive project. If you didn't mind. So, if 200 people sent me 2 postcards, boom, we're good. I'll put up a video, I say, oh, I got enough postcards, we're good. And then we'll go to the next phase. So what's going to happen is, just letting you know, so you know, those postcards that you send me, they're going to be turned into something totally different. It's going to freak you out. It's going to be so freaking wild. But see, it's all about the memories. So essentially what's going to happen is those postcards, and I would prefer that the postcards are this way, not this way. They would have to be this way. And I would prefer that they be a 3 by 5 or 3.5 by 5 inches, right? 3.5 by 5 would be perfect. So if you felt like it, that's all I'm asking. Alright? I I need the tangible postcard itself to make this work. It's gonna be kick-ass, alright? So essentially what's gonna happen is those postcards are going to be turned into something totally different. And it's never been done before. I've been checking all the search engines, looking around, like, nope, don't see it. So I can't tell you what it's gonna be because I don't want somebody else doing it and ruining it. Does that make sense? Because it's kind of like a massive creative endeavor that I just can't do it by myself. It's just impossible, right? So for the fellows or the ladies, if you send me a postcard that's like 3.5 by 5, that, you know, with the image this way, perfect. But listen, let me tell you something right now. There's got to be some rules. Because there's probably 210 people that hate Monogram. I mean, absolutely hate me. Because, you know, some stompage that went on. Or because, you know, they attacked me and then, you know, they got identified, and, you know, whatever, you know what I mean? So they're probably still upset with me. And, you know, it's like, you know, like Mr. Rockefeller, he's probably still upset about me, and then police officers, DHS, and some attorneys, whatever. They're probably angry. Oh, don't forget Prudential PLC, the big old company, the parent company of Jackson National Life Insurance. They're probably still upset too. So all I'm just trying to say is, if you're one of the people that doesn't like Monograph, if you send me anything in the mail that is, one, illegal, or something that would harm me, or something like fecal matter, or something crazy like that, I'm gonna have you arrested. Okay? I'm gonna turn you into the postmaster. See, the postmaster's got a lot of power. They really do. They got more power than a sheriff of your county, for real. And I don't even have to file charges. All I have to do is give whatever you send to them, and they'll hunt you down. And they'll prosecute you. Because that's a felony when you start messing around there. Now, if you send me boxes, and they're ticking, what's going to happen is, I'm going to give the box to the guy at the counter, and I'll be like, hey, can you open that for me? You know what I mean? And they'll handle it. I don't even have to file one charge. I just say, this was mailed to me at this time, here you go, here's the postmark, all that stuff. Nobody's like, oh, go handle it. Now here's another thing. If somebody thinks that they're going to call the establishment and get my details, like my physical address, my real name, date of birth, social security number, driver's license, all that stuff, you will not. One, I know the guys who won't. You will get nothing. They will laugh. True, they will. Yeah. Try it if you want. It doesn't matter to me. Because you're not going to get anything. The only way you're going to get something is if you show up in person with a badge and a subpoena. Or an attorney and a subpoena. Then you'll get my name and my physical address. Alright? But Monty's got I got all that wrapped up. So I'm just letting you know to save you some trouble. So what's going to happen is, I'm going to leave the address under an October Rains account. That's with the blue hood. Just look for it. October Rains, and the address will be right there. So basically, this project is a quest for completion. I can't do it by myself. There's no way I can do it by myself. It's impossible. But let me tell you something, ladies. Right now, and I'm being totally honest. Now, or fellas, or anybody that's going to send me those postcards. Once I get 300 to 400 postcards, I believe I'll need 400 to pull it off. But I might be able to pull it off. I don't really know for sure because I don't know. But at least 200. I know I'll need at least 200. But probably more like 2 to 4. It depends on how far I expand it out. But once it's all said and done, it's going to end up in a video. All the postcards that were sent, all the postcards that were sent will be used. It's going to turn into a video that's going to baffle the hell out of you. I'll tell you right. And it's going to be very, very, very romantic. And nobody has ever done it before. It is. True. Put it this way, it'll be kind of like a story time, but it's going to be a lot. I'm not going to sit down and tell you a story. And that's another thing. Somebody said to me like this, they're like, Monty, why don't you just write a book? I don't want to write a book. You know why? Because I can just create the story and just tell it quicker than I can write a book. And no disrespect to your comment, I'm just telling you the facts. And for people that have creative minds, you understand what I'm talking about. All this stuff comes so easy to me. It comes easy. I can just write a story in a day, or sometimes it takes weeks, but usually it's just like a day or two, it just depends. You know, like boxes, that was kind of complicated. But I'm just saying, it just comes so easy. So I'm on a quest for completion. So when you send the postcards, in parentheses, just go in parentheses, quest, Q-U-E-S-T. Under the law of Bunty. So, quest. That's it. Piece of cake, right? So again, there will be a comment under the October Rains channel. It will put it in parentheses and then give you the address. I'm sure it'll get around.
The people have in their head.
Busted. I'm calling them out on this one. How often do you ever hear me say that one of these shootings could possibly be a false flag? Well, kind of, but not really. I'm not really sold on it too often. But on this one, I think we got him up the belt. I really think this is a possible false flag right here. I think they got a little too arrogant with this one. They went overboard with all the little words they use to secretly give us clues, the pictures, the whole scenario, everything. This, I don't believe this. I really don't believe this one. I think we may have him by the belt on this one. I really do. In fact, take a look at this picture right here. This is supposed shooter Kevin Jansen Neal. And he looks like a morphed image of a bunch of celebrities put together. A little bit of Zach Galifianakis. Who else is in there? I don't know. But something just don't look right. It definitely looks fake. Fake news, fake shooter. I don't know. That's just my opinion. I'm not verifying this. I'm saying I'm giving you my opinion. And I do investigative type work on these things all the time. I pull out all kind of clues and stuff, and we find stuff, y'all find stuff, we work good together as a team. But yeah, this was a shooting supposedly near Rancho Tehama School. And we'll get right into this right now because it's getting quite interesting. Here, one of my subscribers, Kitty. It's 8:30 p.m. my time, and still not one news station, including Fox, has covered this or talked about it. Nothing. What the hell's up with that? And I agree. I was thinking the same thing myself. Fox briefly put on their station when the news story broke. They didn't have any information on it. And later they may come back and talk a little bit about it. But none of these news stations are talking about this shooting. None of them. All night tonight I was flipping channels. None of them. Everybody's talking about this. What's up? Why are they not covering this shooting? 5 people supposedly were killed. Why? Because they got too arrogant and they screwed this one up. That's why. And I'm jumping right on this and I'm exposing this. You deserve the truth. I deserve the truth. We're going to take the world back. And it starts with every single one of these videos and all the support that I have from you. This is incredible, right? This video is going to really shock you. I mean, it's insane what they try to pull off on this one and make us believe this stuff. Some of these, I guess these people in control that are doing these things, they think some of us are stupid, but we're actually highly intelligent people. And we're blowing the cover on them. So, you know, the other day I put a video up here, evidence exposed, DHS, Department of Homeland Security, of course, FEMA, HC, crisis actors, false flags, public shootings. And if you want to see this video, of course it's still up. And I talk about how the government uses this HCEP and they put all this together, and basically what they do is they create a fake shooting incident. And nobody knows whether it's real or not because they're using real police, real actors, real everything. Everything's real guns, you name it. And they do this all over the country all the time. And so we might as well just call that a false flag, right? Because we don't know. They allow news crews, reporters to go in and film it, and I guess you could put it on the news, and who knows whether it's real or not, right? But this actually goes on. Look at the top of the page. That's from FEMA.gov. These are verified sites where they tell you that they're doing this. You have to sign waiver forms. I don't need to go into a lot of detail about that, but that's pretty evident what they're doing. And so it leaves it up to us to try to figure out what we're seeing, is it real or not real? Because they're so good at creating false flags and using crisis actors and government psyops that, you know, who knows what's going on. And what's the agenda? You know the agenda, of course. Take away our Second Amendment rights, get gun control, take control of us. It's the monster that the government's become. No one person's in control. Too many legislative laws passed. And so that's what's going on. But we're on to this. We're on to this big time. And so I just wanted to mention that so you know that these things do exist. Here you see right here, evidence, exercise conduct. And they have all these different pages you can look at in regards to how they pull all this off and make these fake shootings, school shootings, terrorist attacks. This is all supported by the government, and it's all funded by the government. And they do these all the time. HC. So yeah, you just need to know about that. So some of you don't know about that. Now check this out today. This guy, one of my supporters, Tony Camps, and I agree. I noticed this right off too. In regards to today's shooting, and first I want to talk about this. How often, all the time, I'm telling you, what do they do in these shootings? They're always giving us clues with these words, these ridiculous names and words, and they all have meaning to it. They're throwing it in our face without telling us. They just want us to figure it out, and quite often I figure it out and I show you. I mean, watch, go back. If you want to go back, research the shootings, the names of the buildings, the people, the shooters, check some of the names out. You know, I mean, like Stephen Paddock. And I could just go, I mean, there's just so many like this. It's crazy where they give you these clues, these ridiculous names they come up with. And this is just a small example today in this shooting. Mercy Medical and Marcy Miracle. This is crazy, you know? I mean, this couldn't be just real. It couldn't be just coincidence. And check this out. I just noticed it a few minutes ago, and I had to show you this. This is ridiculous. This is a guy that I'm going to show you an interview about in a minute. And the guy actually rehearses his interview. It's quite strange indeed. But this is from the incident today. This is from the shooting today in California. This guy is wearing a hat that says Harvest. Harvest. Like the Harvest Music Festival that I've been covering extensively in Las Vegas that occurred. The most deadly mass shooting in modern day history. What are the odds he's wearing a Harvest shirt? Now, I don't know if that's a Harvest, what is it, Harvest 91 or whatever it is. I don't know if that's what it is, but it still says Harvest. I mean, what's the point of that? They're throwing it in your face is what they're doing. There it is right there, Las Vegas. September 30th, October 2nd, Route 91 Harvest Country Music Festival. And the man has a Harvest shirt, hat on. Just, coincidentally? Of course, that's not coincidence. Okay, so check this out. Shooter Devin Kelly, Texas Baptist Church, mass shooting, 26 dead. Of course, I covered that news story. What does it say up there at the top? Bible school and lived on a wooded property from which a neighbor heard gunfire at night. One of the things that they did in regards to that shooting is they talked extensively about how much he loved to shoot guns all night long. Shoot all night long. Insane. You know, all these neighbors saying, you know, he loved guns. What did they say about Stephen Paddock? Oh, he had 23 guns at the hotel and 40-something at the house, or I don't know, a total of 40-something, something like that. Guns everywhere. So what they're trying to promote and make you believe is people have too many guns and they need to get control of them, take away our Second Amendment rights. That's what's going on with some of these false flags. I'm not saying Las Vegas shooting was one. I'm just saying that's what they're doing with these shootings and a lot of these false flags. You know, just like here in Texas, you know, over and over, they kept saying the neighbors heard him shooting the gun all night, you know? And so what are they doing today in this shooting? Well, first let me name the shooter. The name is, here he is right here. Kevin Jensen Neal. Now, what is one of the top things they're saying about him? Check this out. The crazy thing that the neighbor has been shooting, the crazy thing is that the neighbor has been shooting a lot of bullets lately, hundreds of rounds, large magazines. We made it aware that this guy is crazy and he's been threatening us. This is somebody talking that knows a neighbor, that knows the shooter that shot today in California. That's what they're saying. Flint described living near Neal as hell, he said. I just feel like maybe there should have been more effort put in potentially stopping things like this. So yeah, what? By taking away your guns. That's what he's trying to say. He's promoting the evil government agenda to take away your Second Amendment rights and the guns. Same thing you just saw. You just saw it a second ago. Same thing that they said about the Texas shooter and many others also. You know, saying supposedly Stephen Paddock was a shooter. You know, shouldn't be allowed all these guns, all this ammunition. Texas shooter, shooting all night. And now this one, the one today, California. Hundreds of rounds, large magazines. Come on. I mean, we're not stupid, okay? Every time now, they're just brainwashing this into the people that sit home, watch TV, and those that don't get it, that the guns need to be taken away, they need more gun control, and they need to get a hold of our Second Amendment rights, which we can't allow to happen because the Second Amendment Second Amendment is a constitution, and that's forever in concrete. It has to be, and we have to demand that, and we have to protect that. But you see what they're doing. You see this agenda that's going on. It's so obvious. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure this out. You know, it really doesn't. We know what's going on. Okay, so let's see here. The shooter randomly targeted people and stole cars during the rampage. Now, I'm not going to read all the news story about what this guy did, but they make it out like he's some superhero gone bad. I mean, he's carjacking people, shooting random people, shooting at the school, shooting at cars, running down the highway. I mean, I don't know. There's so much going on with this person, targeting like 5 different locations. I mean, it sounds so crazy. Look, here's this picture right here. That definitely has a piece of Zach Galifianakis in it. I worked on several movies with Zach Galifianakis. He's an awesome actor in the New Orleans area here. And I remember one scene, he was playing a bad character and he walked by and he gave me this look. And he smiled because he was like, damn, that was good. It was like this threatening look because he's a bad person. And it was just funny. But he's a very funny character. He really is. If you work with him in person or on a movie, you love this guy. But this looks like a little piece of him in that picture right there. And other actors too. I mean, I hadn't really sat and thought about this. But look at that picture. Doesn't that look like a morphed image of Zach Galifianakis and a bunch of other actors combined into an image? Like they took all these little pieces and they put them in there and made this character. And this guy looks crazy. They certainly made him look crazy. They even got the hair going wild. And so now they're saying he was already being prosecuted for an earlier stabbing. So I guess, you know, a reason to take away your knives now. Crazy. And look at all the cameras out there. A witness reported the gunman wearing camouflage fired through classroom windows. Now they're saying he fired through classroom windows. But there's contradicting news stories that are saying that the school went on lockdown and it saved all the students. But they said a few students got shot, but they weren't killed. Kids, I guess. But what doesn't make sense is you've got all these news cameras out there, yet nobody's covering this story on the news. Nobody. On any of the big stations. Haven't seen it. They're not even talking about it. Because they blew the cover and they got too arrogant, and we're exposing that. That's why. Now check this out. Right here, Neil was threatening neighbors and shooting guns, a witness said. This witness, right here, which I'm about to show you a couple videos of, this you're going to find quite interesting indeed. It's a man, let's see, Sarah Stinson. Here's part of an interview with the man who says his truck was stolen. So I guess this man's truck was stolen too? And what's the 89 mean? It's got to mean something. I didn't look it up, but we need to figure that out. It's got to be some sign to that too. There's a reason for that 8 and that 9 circling it. I mean, the 9 circling that 8 right there. I've always said that the 0 and the 8 is a very significant, strong number. I discovered that. I've talked about it in many videos. It's powerful. But you got an 8 there with a 9 hooked around it. What's going on with that? We should look that up. We should look that up. I mean, I just got to get this video out there. But yeah, it says, here's part of an interview with the man who says his truck was stolen and his roommate was shot and killed by the alleged shooter who is described as known as felon in his 50s named Kevin. Okay, so this man supposedly had his truck stolen and his roommate shot and killed? But what the odd thing about this is, I'm about to show you 2 videos here. And in these videos, this man does an interview. And then I'm going to show you another video where he's practicing the interview. This is so bizarre. In the first video, you see the microphone up there and he's talking. He's got it all down pat. But in the second one, he's practicing it. And it reminds you of like a crisis actor. Practice your parts. Practice what you gotta say. Get it all right. And then we'll put you on camera and film it. That's really bizarre and crazy. Any of you conspiracy theorists, I mean, I've got a little bit of it in me. Everybody does, I think. But the ones that are really into it are going to love these next 2 videos. Because this just screams cover up, crisis actor, false flag all over it. He's got the harvest thing on his hat. He's practicing what he's doing, and then he gets on film and does it. I don't know. This is so bizarre indeed. It really is. And then on the second video, the first video is actually the final take. If he's doing crisis actor type stuff, the first one is the final take, where he supposedly gets it right. He's got the microphone, they're filming it. But the second one is where he's practicing it. Like a crisis actor would do. Practice your part and get it right, and then, you know, so somebody captures this video and sent it to me because they want this false flag stuff exposed, and we all do, really. But this is so interesting indeed. And he's looking down like he knows he's not telling the truth, and he's just playing the part of an actor. You're looking down most of the time. That's one of the signs there that you're not being honest, I would suppose. I'm just guessing. I mean, I don't, you know. But it is strange indeed. It really is. You've got to see these 2 videos. It makes no sense at all. Yeah, so leave your comments and thoughts.
One other thing, look at this hat. It says Harvest. What's that remind you of? The Harvest Music Festival shooting that occurred in Las Vegas that I've been covering extensively. Interesting. All these little clues.
And the crazy thing is that the neighbor has been shooting a lot of bullets lately, hundreds of rounds, large magazines, and, you know, we've made it aware that this guy has been crazy, and he's been threatening us, everything like that. We just feel like maybe we're going crazy.
And how's your roommate right now?
Unfortunately, he's not good. He's dead. You know, for his family and everything like that, you know, I feel bad to be there for them. I don't know.
How are you feeling about this all, since you knew he was a problem, you said?
I just feel like maybe there should have been more effort put into potentially stopping things like this.
So yeah, this is really enlightening right here. Somebody sent me this video wanting to expose these false flags. And it appears that this man that you just saw in the interview is practicing like a crisis actor would do. Practice your lines, your part, to make sure you get it right, all the information before they start filming you. And it seems to be what's going on here, like a false flag type thing. This is very strange indeed. Check this out. This is very interesting.
I was in town and I got a call. That my roommate was injured, and it was from the neighbor, and that there was an incident and a shooting, and that my truck was stolen. And the crazy thing is that the neighbor has been shooting a lot of bullets lately, hundreds of rounds, large magazines, and we made it aware that this guy has been crazy, and he's been threatening us and everything like that. We just feel like maybe he's a little crazy.
Today is more cyber surveillance and laws. They need order, control, and they have been successful in getting every person in the world on the internet. One source. Only one thing to control. Now, in order to control every person in the world, welcome to the New World Order. Pope Clement VIII, Aldobrandini died in 1638 to everyone's relief. Giorgio Aldobrandini and Ippolita had one daughter, Olympia Aldobrandini, in 1623. As you see, they not only intermarry but use the same names repeatedly, making it difficult to follow through the years without being slightly cross-eyed. She was Princess of Rossano and married Paolo Borghese, son of Camilla Orsini. They had 5 children, one of whom, Giovanni Battista Borghese, was the second Prince of Sulmona after Paolo's father. In 1647, Olympia remarried Camillo Pamphili, the Prince of San Martino al Ciamino and Valmontone, Duke of Carpenito and Montlano and Marquis of Montecovilo. They had 5 children as well, including Cardinal Benedetto Pamphili and Giovanni Battista Pamphili, Duke of Carpenito. In 1667, Alessandro Aldobrandini was born and became cardinal in 1730 until his death in 1734. Following Olympia Aldobrandini's line is not difficult, as it takes us from the first prince, her husband, down to Francesco Paolo Borghese, the 7th Prince of Sulmona, who was born in 1776. He married Countess Adele of La Rochefoucauld and they had 4 children. The 8th Prince, Marcantonio Borghese, Scipione Maria Giovanni Battista Borghese, who was Duke of Salviati and Marquis of Maptri and Boccigiano, daughter Luisa Anna Maria Borghese Aldobrandini, and Camillo Aldobrandini, who became the first Prince of Aldobrandini. Born in 1816, he had 3 children with wife Marie Flore Pauline, Princess of Arenberg, and 2 with his second wife, Maria Catholic, Countess of Hunyadi. The 4th Prince, Camillo Aldobrandini, was born to Baroness Louise and Prince Clemente Aldobrandini in 1945, Rome. Married to Stefania Gallerati Scotti, they had 3 children: Marchesa Senzia Aldobrandini, Princess Pola Aldobrandini, and Clemente Aldobrandini. Princess Pola Aldobrandini married Angelo Federico Arsili and they have 3 children: Maria Camilla Lavinia Arsili, Francesca Stefanina Arsili, and Laura Louisiana Arsili. There are many other modern-day Aldobrandini, such as Princess Olympia Aldobrandini, whose husband is David Rothschild. They live in Normandy, France, at Coteau d'Iria most of the time. They have 4 children: Lavinia Anne Alex de Rothschild, Stephanie Anne Marie de Buffevant, who is married to Augustin de Buffevant, Alexandre Guy Francesco de Rothschild married to Olivia Bordeaux-Groult. Alexandre is going to take control of the family business this year. And the youngest, Louise Lily B. copyright actress de Rothschild. Alexandre Guy Francesco de Rothschild has already taken control of the family's banking industry as of 2008 as head of Paris Orla Copyright and Proprietary Investments, with locations worldwide controlling not only the banking systems of France, Switzerland, Germany, the United Kingdom, including the colony of the United States, but controlling many more. The Rothschild family is extremely well exposed, so we will not waste time on them. However, we strongly urge you, should you somehow not know about them, to go find all that they are involved in. They control many things ranging from wines to geoengineering to all of your banking abilities and much more. Remember, for all of their wealth and power, it is only a shiny coating of an empty shell. They are controlled and only have power because it is given to them by these upper elite families. There is no deeper worth to them, no deeper power. It is also easily dissolved. They are just slaves. Everyone listed here was a Jesuit and Knight of Malta, as well as in the Order of St. Jerusalem. The entire bloodline is. These are the elite, the very top of the pyramid. Remember, if we shine the light of truth, then we can blind the eye. We must not be deceived. You must unlearn what you have learned. Purge your mind. Be cleansed in truth. Not fight kings and princes. We fight all of the forces of evil, and in the end, we win. Expect it.
This video is supported by the guys over at Virtual Shield. VPN. Plain and simple, they will hide your activity and location from hackers, government spies, and data mining companies, and they won't slow your internet speed down. Virtual Shield believes you have the right to remain private. The question is, do you believe that? If you guys enjoyed this video, give it a like and share it with everybody you know.
Then 4 armed suspects caught on tape trying to break into a Southwest Side home. The homeowner's own surveillance camera is helping deputies solve this case.
It should go without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. No person on this planet needs the permission of any other person on this planet to possess the ability to meet deadly force with deadly force, where a situation demands immediate, forceful action.
The surveillance video captures it all. 4 suspects, armed and dangerous, attempting to invade a Southwest Side home.
The victim was able to get back inside his house, close his door, semi-barricaded. Reach for a weapon that was easily accessible.
That's when you hear gunfire. The 4 men retreat, into their car, but not before the homeowner's bullets hit the windshield.
In other words, it doesn't matter if you're a single mom, an elderly couple going about your business, a 250-pound man trained in martial arts, or a school teacher. You have the individual right to carry a firearm to defend yourself and those around you should a madman enter your zone of influence and start harming people with his fire. It's insane to me to consider that there are people out there who actually think it's a good idea to be armed only with mace or a cell phone so you can call 911. What good do emergency services do when you need help right now? You or those you love are about to be shot within seconds. And when those seconds count, help is minutes away. Totally useless. Besides, if everybody would stop and just think about this, who are you calling to help you neutralize the bad guy with the gun? Hopefully, a good guy with the gun. If you're trained in the use of a firearm and carry it with you at all times, you are the good guy with the gun. And you don't have to wait for anybody. Are you in aisle 5 of a grocery store? You're covered. Are you sitting in a church listening to
Borealis. Paradigm expansion.
Greetings from the north and welcome to the forum today called Gnosis, Forbidden Self-Discovery. Tonight's guest is Timothy Warren.
And that's why they call me